Get started. We will have a public hearing tonight, and so we're going to go ahead and do that now. Then we will immediately roll into the regularly scheduled meeting. It's pretty rare that on the items that are on this public hearing tonight that there would be any comments. If there are, that's totally fine, but typically there's not, so we don't do it at 6:15. We wait till 6:30 to do it. But here's the public hearing. The Board of Commissioners of the City of Mount Juliet will have a public hearing on June 8th, 2020 at 6:15 p.m. on the following items to be considered on second and final reading. 1, annex and approve the plan of services for the Hale property being 13.48 acres located at 8370 Saundersville Road, map 32, parcel 037.01. The Rommel property being 5.01 acres located at 8400 Saundersville Road, map 32, part of parcel 038.03, and the Thomas property being 7.0 acres located at 8520 Saundersville Road, map 32, part of parcel 38.08. Another item is amend the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget for the police department grant from the Conover Foundation. Third item is adopt the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget for the City of Mount Juliet. And then lastly, rezone Legacy Point at Golden Bear, map 078, parcels 10.09, 12, 1302, 1303, 1304, 1305, 1306, 1307, 1308, 1309, 1310, 1311, and 13.12 from residential RS40 and office professional services to commercial interchange. Anyone wanting to comment on any of those items and only on those items, please come to the podium back here. State your name and address for the record. If you're here for other items, we'll have citizen comments on those in a few minutes. Okay, that's kind of how we thought it would go. So we will close the public hearing and we will start right away with our regularly scheduled meeting. This is the Mount Juliet Board of Commissioner meeting. It is June the 8th, 2020. It is 6:32 p.m. The agenda is to be set as published. Is that correct, Ms. Sheila? If you are in the audience, you'd like to follow along, the copies of the agenda are on either side of the room in the back. If you're watching on TV, the agenda is available on the city webpage.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
there's a resolution on here. I think we have a lot of people here to see, discuss tonight.
Yes, sir. We're going to do citizen comments in a few minutes.
It would be possible to move that resolution to the front of the agenda so they don't have to hang out with us all night.
Yeah, we can do that right after the consent agenda. What item number is it?
Oh, I'm on the wrong. Tax sales distribution. It is 11A4.
Okay, so with that, under set agenda, we will move 11A4 to immediately after the consent agenda, which will move it up right before item 9A1. Okay? Everybody good with that? All right, to start our evening, we always start with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. We have our fire chief here with us tonight, and he will be leading us in those two items. Let me make sure I can get this. We've got quite a setup tonight with the different microphones, so I think you are on. Thank you, sir, for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. If y'all would, please bow your heads and pray with me. Precious Lord, we invite you into the setting. We ask your presence in our hearts. We're meeting today to conduct matters of business for those that we represent and serve. Guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion for the citizens, businesses, and visitors to our truly blessed city of Mount Juliet. Thank you for being our source of guidance today. Lord, we ask that you heal our land. We, your people, made in your likeness, are in turmoil and pain. Help us to find the answer that will heal the hearts of all of your children, brothers and sisters from all unique origins blessed by you. May the answer be that we all call you our Heavenly Father. that you are the great I am, and that the unity we seek be from the glory that only you possess. May the pursuit of this peace bring glory to your name, and may all be covered with the spirit of peace that is your Son, Jesus. Dear God, bless those that protect from our city streets to our lands abroad. Make their mission righteous in your eyes. Keep them safe. Help them be successful and comfort their loved ones until their mission is complete. Thank you for the sacrifice of your Son, Jesus, that we may all through grace have a hope of eternal life in your presence. Thank you for the gift of the Comforter and the peace that you so richly give. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
If you would please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, Chief, thank
Thank
you very much. While you're up there,
No.
well, I'm going to let you brag on things. Why don't you tell us about what happened yesterday at?
It was hot. I put on 8 layers of 50 SPF. I don't think it meant I had a 400 SPF. When I got home last night, I could feel. No, yesterday, one of the things, and this goes back to the tornado. One of the things after the tornado, when we had our briefings with the city manager and elected officials, they talked about what we could use to that would help us to serve our folks better that night. And the vice mayor saw me walking up Clearview, just about Fairview, and he could tell I was feeling the burn. So the walking part of it, once the poles came down and the wires came across the roads, we couldn't get off of Mount Juliet Road to get into the neighborhood to get you except on foot. And it wasn't until neighbors in the 3 neighborhoods that were affected and the police department showed up with their UTVs and Jeeps and other things that we were able to be transported from one place to another and serve people faster. We had a lot of folks that were trapped, a lot of folks that were under debris. And so Kenny, in working to try and help us get to where we need to be to serve better, with the blessing of the elected officials, got in with Pastor Crouch up at Green Hill Church and some of the other pastors that are part of the Everybody's Wilson. I don't know if y'all looked into that, but please do. Yes, search that. Google it, do what you need to do. It's a great organization. They were able to come up with the funding that allowed us to make the purchase of 2 UTVs, one smaller unit, one larger unit, one thing that will, but all of them have stretchers, they have med bags, they have defibrillators, oxygen tanks. I mean, we went very well, plus a trailer. They all got wrapped by Sinorama over here. All of that was taken care of by Everyone's Wilson. And so yesterday we were at Green Hill Church from 10 until 2. And we were celebrating, obviously, the church congregation getting back together, which everybody I know, especially my wife, needed so very much. Yeah, she's pegging around on her good leg, and she didn't care about sitting under the tent or the sun or anything. She just wanted to be in the house of God, which is actually, the congregation. And so we were up there. All of the pastors from all the different churches that contribute to Everyone's Wilson was there, and we were able to bring the UTVs, the finished products, down and let the Everyone's Wilson, the congregation, everything, see what they had provided for the fire department and what we're going to use to serve them better in the next weather-related event or emergency, whatever we need. So it was a great day, and we were all standing out, and Jill wondered why. She said, "How did y'all do that with all that heat?" And I said, "We just kept talking." I said, "I don't know what we said. We just kept gibbering away." But I said, eventually it got around to us. And I'm of course grateful to my friend and brother Kenny. I'm grateful to all the members of the fire department. Every single member of the fire department and the volunteers were there that night. And so it was a wonderful. I mean, obviously it was a harsh thing, but credit to those that credit is due. And also to the folks in the neighborhoods, because when I closed down the command post on Friday, March the 13th, March 13th at 6 p.m., FEMA had said that we were 3 weeks ahead of where we should have been. And that is that's a testament to the departments, the members of the department, our fire, our police, my good friend Mark Folks down at Murfreesboro that brought the incident command team up here, all the way to people that lived in that neighborhood, because y'all picked yourselves up. You picked your neighbors up. I didn't know this, but the first vehicle that I got in, and I'll be real brief, the folks were in their house and they came out, the house was gone. Their Jeep was still there. So they're like, well, we can't do anything about that. Let's get in that Jeep. That was the first vehicle that came to my rescue and carried us around. And so, I mean, it's that sort of thing that makes this community great. When you don't stop, you don't ever quit. And folks that night, they really rose to the occasion. So it's probably just like yesterday, too much information, but it's
let me
quite a
just
story
add,
that we tell.
Yeah, let me just add, for those that don't speak fire department, these are two gators.
Yes, gators.
Essentially
I'm sorry.
gators. Yeah.
Okay.
Souped up gators, but they're gators,
That's
essentially.
Right. Yeah, Kenny
You
looked
use
at me
that-
like I had a third eye. I said, I need a UTV. What's that? A gator. He said, I'll get you two. But yes, sir.
And that was everyone's Wilson that
Yes.
contributed those. And
Yes, sir.
they said that they raised money from all over the country.
Yes, there were places in Dallas, I think Dallas, Texas, Kentucky. I mean, it was quite a contribution.
So they didn't elaborate on that. I don't know how that happens, but man, hats off to everyone's Wilson and that
Mhm.
group of pastors that put that together.
Absolutely.
Yep. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank y'all.
Our next item of business is approval of the minutes. Before we do that, I should have announced at the beginning, we have done 2 meetings now electronically, but we also have the ability to do these meetings live. The protocols are still in place, and you'll notice that we are spaced out up here at the front table. Staff is spaced. We have them in other rooms if we need to call on them, and we do have the audience spaced 6 feet apart as well. So we are trying our best to follow all the protocols that are still in place for us. So that's, if you're tuning in and you see something different than you normally see, that is what is happening. So we have 2 sets of minutes to approve. One is from the regular meeting of May the 11th. The other is the special meeting of May 29th. Is there a motion to approve those?
Can we separate those?
We can separate those. Now, this is just approval of the minutes, just approving what was written. So let's take a vote first, or we need a motion first on the May 11th set of minutes. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Question?
Motion to defer those. There were some changes sent over today that I haven't had time to review.
It was a few comments to expand upon Commissioner Malay's comments on the budget.
Okay. I was not aware that there's been something submitted. When? Yep.
I can't remember which page, but it added like she supported and would like to review.
Yeah,
the
it's just the
raises.
rewording. There was
Yeah,
no-
it was-
just a rewording.
It didn't change what was in there. It just
Because the comment.
added more
go into a
words
lot
to
of
it.
detail, So I submitted exactly kind of word for word
All
what
right.
I had said.
I should have asked for a second on the motion to defer. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Now we can debate the advisability of deferment. Any other comments? All in favor of deferring that, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Those minutes are deferred. The other set of minutes that we need to approve is the special meeting of May the 29th. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments on that set? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, I think that was 4 yes, none against, and 1 abstention
that's what
by Commissioner Giles. Okay, next item of business is citizen comments. Anyone wishing to address the board on any topic, you'll have a chance to come to the microphone and state your name and address in 1 moment. First, because of the protocols with Corona, we have requested that citizen comments come in as much as possible by email. And so Ms. Sheila will read those off to us first, and then we'll take any citizens that would wish to comment here in the commission chambers.
I know we have 2. So are y'all going to speak? Okay.
You go ahead
She's going
and
to speak. Okay.
go ahead and read what you have.
Okay.
You have several, I
One is
know.
from Erin Wilder for item 11A4, which she will be speaking. She does not want a limitation on the size of the square footage of the house to waive the fees. Steve and Carrie Ann Missimer at 1410 Barrett Drive, they are in favor of waiving the building fees for the tornado victims. Tyler Grills, this is for item 9B1, Providence Central. He is in support. He feels it would be beneficial to Mount Juliet as a whole. We need this kind of development to continue the growth of Mount Juliet in an amazing city that I know it can be. Heather and Keith Harned, they support the Providence Central, as does Mark Hinsley, the president and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. They feel this is a significant investment in both infrastructure and improvements being paid by the development, as well as the future tax collections will be a valuable resource for many years to come. The owner of the UPS store on South Mount Juliet Road is in favor of the Providence Central development. It will allow various infrastructure improvements. They're willing to sacrifice 8 acres to get another project off the ground at such a scale. Our city has so much potential, and if this landowner starts to sell off the property in smaller tracts, we may never recognize the infrastructure improvements the surrounding area desperately needs. I'm just hitting the highlights. Terry Nicholson has questions on 9B1. Her first comment is 98% of the citizens of Mount Juliet are not aware this is being voted on tonight and how it impacts them. There were 2 plans that had been presented to the Planning Commission. The attached McEwen project is exactly what Mount Juliet is trying to mimic. The McEwen project does not show garden variety styled apartments, but rather a high-rise style living. You can determine this by looking at the parking. What she understands, and based on the conversation from the development standpoint, the living component is the easiest part of the equation to develop. The key is planning all components, work, life, and play, in tandem to properly accommodate and entice the Class A customer. The attached PUD being voted on tonight, it shows 3 buildings of roughly 100 units each with ring parking. The 3 buildings are not connected, so it makes it garden variety styled apartments spread out over 15 to 16 acres. Another point to consider is the city had the stipulation that they were selling that land with the agreement that the developer would build the office pads. That way, when a Mitsubishi comes to Wilson County, the infrastructure is already in place and all they have to do is take it from there. Did the city stipulate this point? The city can make the developer, as a condition of approval, put in the site work and utility infrastructure for the Class A offices. This shrinks the lead time to deliver Class A offices from 3 to 4 years to 18 months. If they won't agree, then a Class A office tenant will likely not happen due to the 3 to 4 year delivery time. She encourages all council members to ask if the plan will attract Class A offices. Look at the PUDs that I forwarded to y'all that she attached. Where would those people live? Keep in mind that the majority of Class A offices have employees with $125K plus salaries. A 3-story walk-up garden variety style apartment with ring parking will not be the choice for mid-level to higher level management, including executives. Some will live there, but it won't be upper level management and executives. It's the customer who dictates what they want, not the developer. A Class A customer like Mitsubishi want exactly what Franklin built. Franklin realizes that they have and what they bring with that plan. They bring a Class A customer to the city, and the return is lucrative. I respectfully request that before the council votes, please show both plans to a Mitsubishi and ask them which one they want. A Class A customer would pick the McEwen plan. The road has been a key factor. Any developer would put that road in, given the incredible leverage we have. It's what we build that is important and not who builds it. That's basically it.
Any
And
other-
y'all were forwarded all of these comments and the McEwen plan and the Mount Juliet plan.
Any other
Sure.
comments that came in
That's it.
via email?
That's it
Okay.
that I have printed.
There's, I guess, some folks in the
Mhm.
commission chambers that may want to speak. Are there commission, folks in the hallway that would like to speak? Okay.
Yes, I was gonna see if we could get these folks to speak first tonight. We've got 6 feet marked off behind them.
All right, very good. Anyone wishing to address the board, come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Hi.
If there's anybody in chambers that wants to speak after, y'all can come up here and file into a line. You won't have to wait till the very end.
Hi, my name is Erin Wilder, and I lived at 1312 Clearview Drive until March 3rd. So my printer wasn't working, so I'm going to read off my phone. Dear board members, I am speaking on behalf of March 3rd tornado victims in the city of Mount Juliet regarding the waiver of the building permit fee. First of all, we want to say thank you for previously waiving additional fees and helping us with debris removal that could have already negatively affected us financially. The next obstacle for us is obtaining a building permit fee to rebuild a home for our families. We are asking the city of Mount Juliet to waive this fee for all residents whose homes were damaged and or destroyed by the tornado. Many of us did not choose to build a house here. We chose to buy a house here because we love this community. Please help us to rebuild our houses that we are being forced to rebuild by a natural disaster. This is not an easy process. The past 3 months has been anything but easy. We have had to jump through hoops with insurance. Some of us have had to jump through hoops through our HOA. And now we're having to jump through hoops in the city, which is the last place we thought we would have to jump through hoops. Our children are displaced. They will be displaced for the next 6 to 8 months. For some of us, it's like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. That's not covered by insurance. It's coming out of our pockets during a pandemic. Some of our neighbors on Barrett Drive and probably as well as in Pleasant Grove built these houses in the 60s and the 70s. They're on limited incomes. They don't have $3,000 to $4,000 out of their pockets. I think there's other neighbors here who want to speak as well, so I'll go ahead and tell you thank you, and that's all I have to say tonight.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm David Kemp. I live at 312 SQ and also hit by the tornado. And it wasn't just a home that we lost. We lost also 3 vehicles. So having, rebuild the house, replace those vehicles, it's quite an expense. We've already, paid for fees already for permits. I don't have the exact numbers, probably about 3,500 so far. I've also bought 2 vehicles in Wilson County. So I don't know how much of those taxes goes back into the city, but I have bought 2 new vehicles. We've already bought our appliances from Lowe's. We're trying to spend all of our money in Wilson County. I've been here 35 years in Wilson County. I really feel like the city had a really good opportunity to do something really good for the people. I don't think you were prepared for it. Okay? I've seen a lot of things that a lot of cities have not been prepared for. I hope you get prepared for the next one, because I'm in my 60s. We're close to retirement, and having to do this at my age is not easy. So I really hope you waive these fees, because it's like the First Lady said, they come right out of our building money. The insurance don't pay this extra. Another thing that happened, I'll bring this up, but the removal of the debris was a lot of confusion. When we started to remove the debris, the first thing I did, I come down here to the city and said, okay, what do we do? And I was personally told that whatever the tornado blew off, we could pile that to the street. As long as you separate it by brick, wood, steel, whatever, separate it. I said, that's fine. Anything else, the homeowner was responsible to remove and dispose of. And I did that at the cost of $14,000. Now, my insurance paid that, and I still have to find this out If that comes out of my building fund or not, I don't know yet. I got to find that out. But a lot of other homeowners, after we had already cleared it off and hauled everything to the Lebanon landfill, they moved their debris to the street. Now, I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble. Great for them. It's just when I'm bringing this up is the confusion of everything going on. There's enough confusion during a tornado. After the fact, there shouldn't be this kind of confusion. There should be a plan in place. Now, I know that I'm assuming the city is going to get help from FEMA and some of this disposal, because I know y'all picked up all the other debris. Okay, I'm just assuming that. Don't know that for a fact. We're not getting any FEMA help. If I didn't have insurance, I wouldn't be covered. I paid insurance my whole life, so thank the Lord I had insurance. Okay, so I just saying these things in hopes that if this happens again, this city is a little better prepared. Okay, the outpouring of the neighbors and the friends that came to help all of us, I can't put that in words. It was tremendous. God was so good to us. First, he saved our lives. The emergency system, the horns went off in time. My wife and I, we missed the tornado by 5 minutes. Luckily, we had a full basement to get into. Hadn't been for that, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you. But the system worked. I was lucky that I woke up. But I'm just saying, for the next one, be better prepared. It's great to hear about the emergency vehicles you're getting, but there was a lot of confusion. A lot of people didn't know what to do. And I really hope that you can make these people happy, because we had 22 homes, I think, in just Pleasant Grove, totally destroyed. And if you haven't had a home destroyed, and we were in that, I've been in that house for 23 years.
Mr. Kemp, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
And she's got you over on time. Just,
Okay, I'll
we're
wrap
sorry
up.
about everything that happened to
I'll
you.
wrap up. I'm just want to say that all this just to say next time I hope, whatever it is, the city's better prepared. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sorry about that. Okay. Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Edgar Perez, 310 Fescue Drive, David Kemp's neighbor. Like David, we also lost everything. I moved to Tennessee to take a position here from employment. I work for Vanderbilt University and have 3 small daughters. I wish this tornado on no one, no ill will on no one. I don't want anyone to go through this. It's hard as a homeowner, especially just moving down here about 8 months ago, dealing with this. And just like David, we lost everything. Home, garage, 4 vehicles, a motorhome. I think I was the only one in Pleasant Grove. We saw the motorhome on TV on its side. That was my home. We were blessed that we were able to walk away with clothes on our backs, and that's it. So having to rebuild has definitely been a roller coaster. And I really appreciate the different commissioners stepping up to the plate and proposing this resolution to have the permit fees waived. Unfortunately, I know there was a little bit of confusion also with the permit fees. There was a sentence in there that was added limiting the rebuild size to the exact same footprint, 100 square feet maximum. Unfortunately, some of us are rebuilding now to ADA standards because we have family members that we have to accommodate, and it's not up to us if we have to go a little bit over 100 square feet. So what I'm asking the city to do is, when you vote for this resolution, and I know it's already been removed from the agenda, and I just wanted to reinforce it, to please not include this 100 square feet extension of building space, because some of us, our hands are tied in rebuilding this home because of family members we have to accommodate. None of us here are wealthy enough to build this 5,000 to 6,000 square foot mansion that y'all are trying to protect, the city from. None of us are in that spot. If we were, we wouldn't be crying about these fees. It's just like David said, our fees themselves, for me, unfortunately, it comes out of my building costs. I'm underinsured $40,000. God knows where I'm going to get that money to rebuild our property. So every little penny that the city can help its residents save goes towards rebuilding our home. And just like some of my neighbors, we could have just, cut and run, but we didn't, because we love Mount Juliet. So we decided to stay to rebuild, even though I have 2 small children going through psychological counseling now, because God forbid there's a breeze in the air, they freeze like deer in headlights. But we love Mount Juliet. We're here to stay. and I'm asking y'all to please do the right thing for the citizens. There's, I think, 65 of us that lost everything. And, please go ahead and waive it and, at least be considerate. None of us are trying to build 6,000 square foot homes. Please go ahead and waive that the square footage size. Appreciate your time. Have a great evening. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Charles Wilder. I live at 1312 Clearview. And everybody here has said everything that I'm thinking, except that this is such a small investment for a city of Mount Juliet to its constituents and the people that live here. Very small investment to waive these fees for something that we didn't choose to do. But for us, it's like an investment of everything. We are putting everything that we have into this house that we're about to build from this tornado. So I just hope that you guys recognize and take heed of that you could really help a lot of people here by voting to waive these fees. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to comment?
Sean Walsh, 1086 Secretariat Drive. I'm also the Triple Crown HOA president. We roughly have our estimates about 50 homes that are being demolished or have. Still quite a bit of insurance back and forth. So far, out of the ones that already are, about half of them, they're choosing to sell their lot. And over again, what we hear is they can't afford to rebuild. I mean, what we're talking about is people that, like, for our community, right? Police officers, nurses, school teachers. I mean, good people, good careers, but nobody's in the type of point where, $3,000 in fees, it's a big deal. I mean, it's a difference. Most of the homes are 2,100 square feet, 3,100s are top, maybe a little bit more than that. But, we're not talking about mega mansions or anything like that. Good homes, good people. The biggest problem being the people at the front of our community, the older homes, the older people, smaller homes. Those are the ones that they have to go to current standards. And current standards tends to lead to a cost problem, right? Mount Juliet Code right now would say that they would have to rebuild and do all brick in order to meet that 1 hour fire rating. That tends to cause a problem. So, something like this where you would waive a fee, $2,200 could be a big difference. It's how much they take out of their pocket, especially somebody on fixed income. It's a significant difference. I guess my biggest worry was seeing the people sponsored. I didn't see everybody's name on it. So I'm really hoping that, that's a misprint or everybody just hasn't collectively agreed on it. Because, as far as the people, I think everybody's in the same agreement of it's something they need, something they're asking for. So if you could please consider it, appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to comment? No more? Yeah. Anybody else in the chambers wish to comment? Citizen comments? All done? All right, thank you. We will close citizen comments. We will go to commissioner reports and comments, starting with District 1, Commissioner Justice.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Those that are watching, I know that if you turn on some of the news channels, you'll probably find some more entertainment value out of what you're saying with the people that are running wild throughout the cities and doing some of the things that they're doing. Without getting onto a big long binge, I just want to say something very, very simple. There was a time when we had a tornado. It was March the 3rd, and we had a fire department and a police department that came out of the woodwork to come and help people. Now, our police officers are being attacked, and our police department is being attacked. And I want to make sure anybody has any questions, understands, and is very clear that I personally, and I hope this commission will always back our police department. We have one of the finest police departments in the city or in the state, I believe in the country. We have one of the finest chiefs. Our administrative staff is second to none, and the guys that are on the road are second to none. So anybody that has a problem with that, please understand that I'm being very, very clear where I come from. You can leave the city of Mount Juliet anytime in the same manner that you came here. Quicker. I'm good with that. There are several forms of social media where I've had an opportunity to read some of the rhetoric on social media concerning our police department. It's unacceptable. It's not going to be tolerated. Our guys do a good job. We don't have the problems that I have seen that other cities have. Our police department, our admin, our guys on the road are second to none, and they have my 100% support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Going to District 2, Commissioner and Vice Mayor James Manus.
Thank you, Mayor. And well said, Commissioner Justice. I just wanted to tag on to some of the stuff that the fire chief had added and to say thank you to everyone's Wilson for the very generous donation and the efforts in coordinating that. I want to say thank you to Green Hill Church for hosting the event Sunday. But I just want to take just a moment too and thank Green Hill Church for another thing. For several years, they've let us stage a ladder truck there at that site. And that building that we were using was terribly damaged in the windstorm and just totally destroyed basically. And it had to be disassembled piece by piece. But, you know, the fire department, with the help of some others in there, got in there and disassembled that. And basically they've saved the truck with no damage at all. And that truck's special to me because in my neighborhood, there was a time that there were people that they couldn't renew their home insurance unless that truck was on the north side of it to provide the coverage there. So that is, I know the fire chief has spent many, many hours on the phone with insurance companies trying to work that out once with an ISO mistake about where that truck was located. But, you know, it's saved homeowners thousands of dollars over the years on that thing. So it's been a gift to the city from the church to let us keep that there. And just wanted to thank them again for their more than going above and beyond and their willingness to support this city in any way possible. I want to thank too Troop 911. I had a Zoom call with about 15 scouts on there and did an interview session and helped them earn their citizenship badge. So they often say that sometimes that's one of the hardest things to do in earning that badge is get the interview. So, you know, we use this time of lockdown and stuff and put it to good use. So I appreciate them and their parents that support them along the way and getting that done. To our police department, I know they put in some hours of overtime during this period of unrest and we appreciate it. And we know that you don't always sign up for long shifts, and they did it for the longest after the tornado and then right back after it over something that could have been ultimately prevented. And of course, Public Works, shout out to them, still going strong, you know, keep trying to clean this city up after the tornado and the windstorm. They're still going 7 days a week trying to get that debris cleaned up out there. So thank you, everyone. Mayor, that's my comments.
All right. Thank you. Going to District 3, Commissioner Art Giles.
Oh, Ray, you said it well. You really did. Thank you. And thank you, James, too. So I echo what both of y'all said. And so there's not a whole lot of reason for me to reiterate that because y'all said and done such a good job. I want to mention that we're trying to get back into things. As you can see, we have people in the audience tonight. And we had a BPAC dinner walk this past Monday, and we had a very large crowd, I thought. Don't you think so, City Manager? We probably had 10 plus or so. Some of the police were there, and we had a great time. We tried to practice social distances and that kind of thing, and we went to 8, and it was really good. So we're still going to try to have these the first Monday every month at 6 o'clock here at City Hall. So hopefully you can join us. And I have noticed this piano down in this little shed thing. And so my curiosity got the best of me this last Saturday, and some of my walking routes have not been in front of that piano. So I think it's called Play Me Piano. So I was walking down through there Saturday, and Ray, I just couldn't help. So I sat down there and I played Just a Closer Walk with Thee, and then I played Today I Started Loving You Again. So I must have been convicted after that. So I had to play Just a Closer Walk with Thee again. And I'm telling you, it's an experience I've never had before, sitting there and all those cars coming by, and here I am playing. But you know, it adds, the thing about that, it does add to the arts. I've talked to Kenny about it, and thank you, Kenny, for putting down there, because I sure wouldn't have experienced that if I couldn't, you know, if it wasn't here, I wouldn't have done that somewhere else. It's probably a little red too while I was doing it, but thank you. And from my understanding, I want to encourage the public, if you play, to stop by there and play that piano. I've seen, you know, I've seen somebody in there, but thank you for that and doing that. And I think you're doing it somewhere else, you said too. So anyway, if you haven't done that, please experience that, because it is truly something to experience. Ray, you play. You need to go down there and play it. I also want to thank Tyler Chandler. We had a situation after this tornado where that, you know, most of us went out and volunteered and helped and that kind of thing. And after a certain point, you didn't have as many and resources to help someone that was in need. So one of my constituents on Sycamore Drive, they needed help with debris removal. And so we put our heads together. We met, we was trying to find and talk. And so talked to Captain Chandler for a solution and help. And so he connected with us with the Wilson County's long-term recovery relief team. And it's called Recovery Wilson, to ensure the residents to get help. And that's comprised of faith-based and businesses and there were other organizations working together. So this past weekend, you may have seen that clip on I think it's channel 17, and where that it showed that they came out and worked and was really benefited not only the homeowner but the people that was involved. So you know, it's a two-way thing. You get blessed by doing it, and then the people get blessed as well. So I appreciate Captain Chandler hooking us up to them and that resident being taken care of up there, because they needed it. So with that will end my comments, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Going to District 4, Commissioner Mullally.
Well, I personally am glad to see people back in the room, the public and, you know, business people and developers and everybody. So I'm excited to see that. So I just sent out my May newsletter, and I'm kind of proud of my newsletter, so I always try and promote it when I can. I think it's very well informed. It's got a lot of great information in it. I would encourage, it's for the district, but it's not just for the district, because I do have other people that subscribe to my emails for the newsletter. So I encourage anyone to, if you don't want to do the emails, you can go to my website and get it that way, jennifermullally.com. It's right there on the front page. Went on a ride along with the police department in the K9 unit last month with Corporal Barth and Milo. And so that was pretty exciting. That was my first one. I know that Commissioner Manis goes on them all the time. So this was my first experience. I actually got to see Milo go to work and go around the car, and he alerted on a scent right at the driver door. So that was pretty cool. So Corporal Barth was just very professional, and so was Milo. And I just commend our police department and our fire department, of course, for their great work. And I do want to say that 2 different times on emergency calls, we're going down the road like really, really fast. And so that was kind of scary. And the cars thankfully stopped, but it's just scary looking at those cars, not knowing if they're going to move, and you're just praying they don't move. So just in case you don't know, if you're on the road and an emergency vehicle approaches you from coming at you or behind, please pull off to the right side of the road and not the middle part of the road, because that's where they tend to pass. So please, in case you didn't know, pull off safely to the right side of the road. In our elementary school, Rutland Elementary, in our district, Kathy York was nominated as the District Tennessee of Education Principal of the Year. She was nominated. I don't know. I was trying to find out if the vote's gone through or not and how it turned out. And I don't know how it turned out, but, and they may not have even voted on that yet. So but congratulations to her on that nomination. Employee of the Month, congratulations, Deputy Chief Mullins with the Police Department. He was the May Employee of the Month, and John with Planning was the Employee Month for April. I did not know that at the time. So congratulations to them. And that's really all I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to tag on to the comments about the police issue that's going on in the country. And I guess with my title of mayor, I'm getting the canned emails from probably all over the United States. I've been getting hundreds of them. They come in two varieties. One is about disbanding the police department, and the other is about reforming the police department. There are literally hundreds of them coming in. And everyone says, as their opening line, I am a resident of Mount Juliet, and then it's obviously copy and pasted after that. I was able to check on a couple of them, and they are not residents of Mount Juliet. One was Chicago, and another was from another state. And so if you are of that persuasion and you're wanting to send me an email, or anyone else on this board for that matter, an email with that type of a topic, I suggest you put your address, because when I see that it just is the canned email copied and pasted, candidly, I'm deleting it. If you have an address on there that's actually a Mount Juliet address, I'll be glad to respond to you. You probably won't like my response, but I will be glad to respond to you. And I'm sure you would get the same response from any of the elected officials here. We are, as you heard already from all of the commissioners, all the elected officials, we are in full support of our police department. We are not going to stand for any of the stuff that you're seeing in some of these other news reports. And that's all I'll say about that. And with that, I'll turn it over to our city manager, Kenny Martin, for his report.
Thank you, Mayor, elected body, and everybody that's in the audience tonight, and those at home and those that spoke earlier. I greatly appreciate folks coming out and letting us know how they feel and and giving us the information to share with us. I wanted to start off by thanking three people that we didn't get an opportunity to thank earlier. One is Bobbin Gadazra, who owns the Courtyard at Marriott and also the Hampton Inn, and is building a new hotel here. They made a generous contribution to our fire department, along with Providence Marketplace and also Raj Patel. They brought the 10 acres beside the at-home store here in Mount Juliet because they appreciated what we had done in the responses after the tornado. For everybody that spoke tonight, we've heard from a lot of folks, as you can imagine. March 3rd is one of those dates for me that I'll never forget because it was my birthday. Standing out in the middle of Mount Juliet Road about 2 o'clock in the morning out there with several of our commissioners, elected members, citizens. I've never been prouder, needless to say, what I saw here. It's unfortunate in my 30 years with the city, we've had a few tornadoes, but nothing like what we saw on the 3rd. I mean, that was very devastating. A lot of the cities that came and helped us have since, unfortunately, had tornadoes themselves. For example, Chattanooga, exactly. And that breaks my heart. We hadn't had the opportunity to thank them properly. And at some point, I'll go on a little bit of a road tour and go to those cities and thank them, because without their assistance, and we've offered some assistance to other cities since then, it would have been a much different outcome. So I'm very proud, and I hear our citizens loud and clear when they talk about some of the frustrations and even confusion early on. When you suffer a tornado of that magnitude, there's going to be confusion, unfortunately. And even with FEMA and TEAM and those other organizations, we were getting sort of mixed messages ourselves to what we could do and not do. We want to make sure we were playing by the rules and protecting the city. But I'm most proud of our Public Works Department, Police Department, Fire, our City Beautiful team, our Parks Department, because it was literally an all hands on deck moment for our city. And I couldn't be prouder. And also of our business community. Our community, as far as the city, has been through a whole lot since the start of the year. Everybody goes back to the tragic loss in our Christmas parade, the tornado, the windstorms, the pandemic, and our citizens have been through a lot. And when you think of things like the little piano up on Mount Juliet Road, I know it makes you laugh. And if it makes you laugh and even smile, that's good. Those are called Play Me pianos. They're all over the country, and it gives us an opportunity to take old pianos that would otherwise be thrown away, put some art on them, and create some smiles. And that's all they're there for. They're not meant to be in tune or anything else. It's just to create some art. And a lot of our local artists, including children, bring that art to town. So I get it. I said that when we put them out there, there'd be some laughs, and that's okay. But please support our local businesses. As everybody knows right now, with the economy and a lot that's going on across the country, a lot of our business and shop owners are struggling. And they're struggling because they faced a magnitude of different things that, including the pandemic, of course. And they're trying to get back open now. And when you shop locally and you shop in this city, it benefits these businesses and our schools and our law enforcement agencies and things of that nature. And I want to let all the citizens know that we're working hard to replace some of the businesses that we've lost. There's some exciting news, but then again, on the other hand, there's also some disappointing news that some of the businesses that you've been waiting to see open may not reopen. And so I just want everybody to know that that's just part of the attrition, and it's sad, it's unfortunate, but we're facing what every city is across this great nation, and we're going to work hard to get those businesses open. But in the interim, please, please, please support your local businesses. Speaking of 2 new businesses coming to town, I just jotted down a couple real quick. The Old Crystals location will have a new business going in it. It's a success story. There's a gentleman that started out in the food truck industry, and he'll be opening up a business there called Hibachi Jr. So I'm excited because when you meet with these people, these individuals that are investing their life savings, and you see the enjoyment and the excitement, and you can hear it in their hearts and souls, you're excited for them. So please, as these businesses open, the same with Slotsky's Deli, please support them. There's also a new Subway that'll be going in beside the Tiger Mart, which will eventually change its name to 7-Eleven. And so I just want to say thanks to all the businesses for what they do in our community, especially all the uplifting that they gave to those that suffered through the tornado, shortly after the tornado, and since then. So God bless our great city, and God bless our great country. And that's all my comments.
All right. Thank you very much. Now we will go to the business portion of our agenda. All of the elected official microphones are on. We're going to do the consent agenda first. There are actually 8 items on the consent agenda. I do have to read each of those into the record, but then we'll take one and only one vote on the entire 8 items. So the first one is item 8A1, an ordinance to annex into the corporate boundaries of the city of Mount Juliet approximately 13.48 acres, property known as the Hale property, and being found at 8370 Saundersville Road, map 32, parcel 3701, and being located within the city's urban growth boundary. Next one is 8A2, an ordinance to annex into the corporate boundaries of the city of Mount Juliet, approximately 5.01 acres, property known as the Rommel property, and being found at 8400 Saundersville Road, map 32, parcel 38.08, and being located within the city's urban growth boundary. Next is 8A3, an ordinance to annex into the corporate boundaries of the city of Mount Juliet approximately 7 acres, property known as the Thomas property, and being found at 8520 Saundersville Road, map 32, parcel 3803, and being located within the city's urban growth boundary. Next is 8A4, an ordinance to rezone property known as Legacy Point at Golden Bear, being found at map 078, parcels 1009, 12, 1302 through 1312, from residential RS40 and office professional services to commercial interchange. Also 8A5, an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget, ordinance 2019-35, to accept a donation from the Conover Foundation for the purchase of a multiple events response trailer. Next is 8B1, a resolution adopting a plan of services for the property known as the Hale property, located at 8370 Saundersville Road, map 032, parcel 3701 in Wilson County, Tennessee, located within the city's urban growth boundary. 8B2, a resolution adopting a plan of services for the property known as the Rommel property, located at 8400 Saundersville Road, map 32, parcel 3808 in Wilson County, Tennessee, located within the city's urban growth boundary. Finally, 8B3, a resolution adopting a plan of services for the property known as the Thomas property, located at 8520 Saundersville Road, map 32, parcel 3803, in Wilson County, Tennessee, located within the city's urban growth boundary. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments from the commission? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The consent agenda is passed unanimously. We will next go to 11A4, the resolution to waive fees and refund building permit fees due to the tornado from March 2020. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Questions or comments from
I
the
do.
commission?
I do. I want to talk about this first. When you've got something that is so sensitive, we all have ideas, and we didn't really get to talk about it. I found out Commissioner Justice had wanted to sponsor this initially. I didn't realize that. I'm talking to the city manager over a week ago saying that I want to sponsor this. And then I found out that Commissioner Manus had been talking, and you had even said something. I did remember some of that. So we're all putting this stuff together. So the first one that went out, I realized this weekend, they didn't include that in it. And I know some of the comments, one of them was, I think somebody's got it confused that it was just 100 feet would be, you couldn't build anything over the 100 feet. What it was, but it's not in there now. And I'm going to tell you why it's not in there. That was a variance, and that would have been to discuss tonight. That would have been a threshold. But I was on the phone with many, many of my constituents today over there talking about what they're building back and why they're building it back. We had an example of that. Matter of fact, tonight he was talking about, and that comes under ordinance and law and ADA requirements, et cetera. So I called in here and asked them to take that back off and put it off. And I am not going to make a motion to put that back on. Most of the people that I talked to today, the square footage that they're building back is just a few hundred feet more than what they regularly had. So, again, I heard, and there was nothing that was intentionally, deceptively put on there all of a sudden. And that's the way that it was displayed apparently through social media today, which is very unfair to me. But that's the way it was. And that's not what happened. The city did not include that, and y'all can agree with me. That was supposed to have been in there, and it wasn't. And so when I didn't see it in there, I questioned it. And that's why it came out today, and it wasn't on the one that came out on Wednesday. It's very difficult when you've got three people that's putting stuff in, and we didn't talk to each other about it. So, except maybe a few weeks ago, things were thrown or whatever, but I couldn't remember. So anyway, I'm very sorry for the confusion, but I've heard from the people today, and I agree with you. So I'm not making a motion to put that in there. And matter of fact, there's one thing in there that I've looked at, and I think we need to change that as well and give y'all a little bit more time on it. And so I am going to make an amendment for this date to extend that. And the reason is because it is very difficult sometimes working with insurance. We've heard those testimonies, and I have a testimony too. Most of you know that my business was hit and I rode the tornado out. I was there working. I got my car. A lot of yours was totaled. Mine probably should have been totaled actually. I'm glad it wasn't. But anyway, still too much owed on it. The company owes it. But anyway, I just got my car last week, my vehicle. And I'm still working. I didn't insure my own. I mean, I pay for it. I wasn't the agent for my office. There's reasons behind that. But at any rate, so I didn't, and I want everybody to understand that when I vote for this tonight, this is for residential. This is not for businesses. Isn't that correct? That's what this is for, residential. I don't want anybody to think that I voted for something for me. Matter of fact, I put zero of anything down at the street for the city to pick up. It is in the back of my property right now. And pardon the pun, it looks like a tornado hit my back. It has been picked up by the mowers and the insurance is going to pay to have that hauled off. So I did not utilize the city for that expense. and I'm going to do what I said. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm getting anything out of this. I'm getting zero out of this. I'm doing this. I believe it's right, and I'm voting for it because of y'all, and that's right. I believe it is, and so I want everybody to understand that there was nothing ill will when this happened today. This is how it happened. And that could have been just a threshold to discuss, because when it first started, we were talking, it was 50 feet because we just was trying to come up with something. And that was just in case, but in case somebody wanted to build like a 6,000 square foot home, but in talking with people, it's not going to happen. You know, there might be one or two, but just like the gentleman talked tonight about someone else and his insurance company had to pay, there's going to be a few of those. But the personnel of the city, we don't have time for that. So I'm not going to make that amendment. I don't think nobody else on here will either way. So thank you.
All right, other comments? I've got one comment. I just need to explain how that I will be looking at this. And you got to keep in mind that I teach 12th grade American government and Tennessee history. And part of that curriculum is the famous story of Davy Crockett and his famous speech in Congress about not yours to give. If anybody doesn't remember that story from their Tennessee history class, I fully understand. But if you Google Davy Crockett, not yours to give, it'll come up immediately. But I can't vote for this when I teach my 12th grade students that every single year. I'm not going to stand in the way of it. I feel very badly for every one of you that got hurt in some way, damaged in some way. In fact, the two who passed away were very dear friends of mine. So believe me, it hits home too. But I simply, on a constitutional principle, I can't put my hand to it. So I'm going to choose to abstain. But I just thought it best that I mention that and explain that before the final vote tonight. Don't want to stand in the way of it. Feel sorry for every one of you. But charities to be given by people, not by public monies. And that's the Davy Crockett story. And it's actually a pretty interesting one if you want to Google that and read it. Other comments?
A while ago, I want to amend this where it says the 12/31/20 to at least, and if y'all want to do it further, that's fine too, but at least to March the 3rd of 2021. And that gives a year. And there may be some circumstances, Dylan, because some people may not be satisfied with what the insurance is paying, and they may not can get enough right then, and they may not pull the permit. And so we should have some kind of provision in there that it's under the discretion of the building manager.
Let me get a second before you keep
Okay.
going. Is there a second on that?
I'm
March
sorry.
the 3rd, 2021 would be the new date. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to
And
cut you off.
I
We
think,
just had to have
no,
a
I'm
second.
sorry. And we need to have some kind of provision so that if there was a circumstance, that it wouldn't have to come to us, that I think that Mark could weigh off on that. There might be one, there might be two, there might be five. I doubt there'll be more than that. But I know in the business, sometimes you have some engineers come in. I mean, I'm dealing with I had a structural engineer come in, and so you're dealing with those kind of things. So there might be a few of those little things that would happen, and we need to extend that even longer because of that. And I think that we should just give that authority to him. They're downstairs.
Okay. Other comments on the amendment?
Yeah, I'll say I threw a date out. I don't remember what it was. I don't remember what the original date was we threw out there, but we just wanted a cutoff point so they don't have to track it forever.
Uh-huh.
And I'm comfortable whatever date the board sees fit with on it.
Okay. That actually occurs in more than one place. So I assume you want it in all the places where it occurs.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Other comments? All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Amendment passes unanimously. Back on the resolution as once amended. Other comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any abstentions? That'll be me. 4 votes yes, 1 abstention. Next item of business is 9A1, an ordinance of the city of Mount Juliet, Tennessee, adopting the annual budget, property tax rate, and sewer rates for the fiscal year beginning July the 1st, 2020, and ending June 30th, 2021. Is there a motion? I'll make the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments from the commission?
I have something I'd like to say, and if this isn't the right time, for this suggestion or motion, let me know and I'll do it another time. This has to do with the deputy chief position with the fire department. I would like it if this could be an in-house promotion. I know I come from the corporate world, and you know, you always train your employees and to groom them or whatever to help promote them and grow them so that they stay. And then, you know, it only helps the company. I can't see that the government would be run any different. So I would like to see that that it would be given priority to promote within. And I think also that would help encourage training for those positions. So I would like to make a motion
Okay.
for that.
All right. I think the motion is, can you restate it?
Okay.
I'm
right.
trying to restate it and I don't know that.
I would like to make a motion that this position for deputy chief with the fire department that is open, has been created, that first priority is always given to the employees, the staff. And I think that would encourage training from within versus looking outside first. So the motion is to, I don't know how to word it. I don't know if it would be a suggestion or to have it written in there. I don't know. Gino, could you kind of, I don't know the legalities of it.
What I think you're trying to do is that there be a preference for this position that the city manager first look within before publishing it to go outside.
Okay, are you intending that to be a preference or is that a,
I would like to make a
mandate?
motion.
but is
For
it,
it.
is it a preference or a mandate?
I would like to make it a mandate.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that. I think that's good. And I want to amend that amendment if I could. I like this.
first priority, it's a mandate.
It's a mandate, she said.
Yeah, if the motion has to take a stance on there, then yes, I'm choosing the mandate.
Hang on. Commissioner Giles, did you?
Yeah, I think that's excellent because we promote in our police department from within most of the time, do we not? Yes. So if it's mandated, why don't we, I'll make a motion to amend your amendment to go along with it, that the person be employed at least a year here. And because I know they've been being trained, so.
Okay, hang on, I'm having a hard time keeping up. Okay, the amendment to the amendment is that they be employed 1 year, is that correct?
At least
Is there a
1
second
year.
on that?
Second.
Okay. Let's have debate on the amendment to the amendment. 1 year experience in the, is that the right way to say it?
I
1 year
guess it is.
experience in the current existing
training.
structure.
Experience in training.
We'll just hand up first. Commissioner,
I guess,
Vice Mayor?
I guess that when you narrow it down to 1 year, I mean, I'm curious from the fire chief, how many people we're talking about here? I mean, our whole fire department's only got 22 employees, the whole thing.
Well, wouldn't you want to train your people for such positions?
Well, I would want them to get first, to be looked at first preference, but I wouldn't want to forego the best candidate if there's a better choice out there. And I'm just curious as to how many people been here a year that might even qualify.
I don't know. Can we have
Chief, what do you
comments?
say? How many people have you employed that are here 1 year already?
Just about everyone has been here 1 year at different levels from either Fire 1 or Fire 2. I do have 3 lieutenants. I do have 3 captains. Now, I'm not sure that I'll have to go back and pull their training records as to see how far along they are into getting into an administrative role. But I mean, it's if they have done that up to this point, absolutely. But if they haven't, then yeah, not sure what I'm going to be able to do at that point.
Okay. So what is your input on training and promoting from within?
Everyone is trained up to the position that they're comfortable with. I mean, the captains are comfortable at captain, the lieutenants at lieutenant, the engineers at engineer. We do mandate that somebody, when they are hired, that they are a firefighter 1, and we encourage them to seek firefighter 2 as soon as possible, within a year of their employment. But now if you look at the traditional hierarchy of a fire department, there's a fire chief, there's a deputy fire chief, then there's battalion chiefs and all the way down. Our fire department is unique where you have myself as the chief, and then you have captains right underneath. This position is someone who's going to be able to step in when I step out. And they're going to, with the projects that we have coming on and the training that we're looking to do in-house to keep costs down low, this person's going to need to have instructor abilities, which, I'm not sure that our captains have that are ordained by the Tennessee State Fire Commission.
At this point, I know you've been interviewing, I assume.
No, ma'am.
No, not yet.
We haven't even posted.
okay.
No, ma'am. It
I
was
see.
not until it's approved. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I got you.
Let me go to Commissioner Justice. He's had his hand up. Commissioner Justice?
Yes, sir. First of all, our police department does not have any mandate. They've been in operation for many, many years, I think since 1972, if I'm not mistaken. So we have access to a lot more experienced folks that are been there. We've only had our fire department how many years? 7 years?
It'll be 7 years this
Yeah.
September.
So it's a little tough to come up with somebody in 7 years of history that knows enough about the fire department here that they could just walk in and assume the assistant chief's duties, number one. Number two, very seldom do you get a CEO or an assistant CEO or CFO in the corporate world that is not hired from that position from another company. For instance, Humana might employ someone from HCA, just using that as an example. Very seldom do you get the positions below that admin position that have not worked in another position similar to that and been poached normally from another corporation. And be honest with you, we vote on budgets and we vote on policy to a large degree, but I don't think we need to be handing down mandates as to who our department heads are going to hire as their next in line. That man right there needs to be the one making that decision. The chief needs to be making that decision for the police department and fire department. Mark Kirk needs to be making that decision in his department, Jennifer, and so on. We need to let these department heads manage their departments, and we have a city manager who oversees all of that. So I'm going to leave it at that, but I'm not going to be able to support anything other than a preference. I do agree that there should be a preference, and we should be given an opportunity to everybody. But I don't want to make it a mandate and tie his hands or push him into doing something that he would not ordinarily do. So
I'll weigh in too then, because you had me till you mentioned corporate world. I worked for W.R. Grace and I got hosed so many times. I don't even want to think about it. It was a long time ago and it was so bad. So I'm gonna support this. I think it's the right thing to do, is to encourage our people to try to work for upward mobility. So
I don't think we
appreciate that
can
comment.
legitimately call it a mandate, though. I mean,
That's
what are we mandating? We're mandating that it's going to be a preference given?
I think it's a mandate that it be the new deputy chief be someone who is, way I heard it, is already employed by the department.
That's not what I heard.
1 year.
That is not what I heard.
Was that not the amendment?
That's the motion on the motion on the floor would be the mandate that he would have to hire from within, and the amendment
I
is.
said amendment for a year because there should be enough training, I would think.
To
for
be a
year.
deputy chief
In a year.
in a year? Are you kidding me?
Well, we could say somebody was employed 2 years.
No,
I mean, we
2 years ain't gonna get it. I mean, as a
It's a-
deputy chief, how many years you got, James?
27.
27?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Were you qualified in the first 5 years to be a chief?
No, sir.
Didn't think so. Until you've been in that business, I do not want somebody that's only been in there 2, 3, 4 years to be leading something of that nature. Okay, this is not something you play with. You say, hey, you look like a good guy, jump in there and let's do it. You can't do that. You're talking about public safety.
Yeah. Now, every position that we have up until this point has been from within. We have captains, lieutenants, and others that have been selected from inside. But if you go by the standards across the nation as to what fire departments do, usually when you get into the upper echelon of administrators, they will open it up to the folks that are in-house, but they also open it up outside to make sure, because there's such a difference between the job description and the qualifications for captain, and then the leap to assistant chief, and so forth.
Because typically in promotions, a deputy chief would be in line to be promoted to chief and such as that.
Yes,
Right.
you want that to be there. Unfortunately, I mean, we're at 7 years of age and we haven't had a whole lot of time to get into that mode. I mean, that is certainly my thing has always been that I prepare somebody in-house to, when I walk off, that they walk up. But right now we're just at a unique place where I'm a fire officer 4, and that's as high as you can get outside of going to Emmitsburg and being a executive fire officer. But I mean, you have to look at the upper echelon of the fire chief and the deputy fire chief. They almost have to be symmetrical in their qualifications.
Well, here would be an option then. If this passes, and you survey your people, you put out your job description, you can come back to us and say, I tried and no one can do this job. And then maybe we can reconsider it at that time and change the amendment at that time. But I think it's certainly
Well,
worth
it is
an
certainly
effort.
my intent to open this up. I've in my work with HR to open this up in-house. This was going to be a standard procedure that we would do for assistant department head, is to open it up in-house first and then open it up outside as well, and post it, given the parameters that we go through when we go to solicit for a job of this nature.
May I make a suggestion here before we do something that is totally unresearched, completely out of the norm? Let's go back and look and see what we have done at the police department and try and copy the policy so that we're being consistent. Okay, I mean, I'm thinking, and I don't know this to be a fact, but I believe, other than the chief himself, the deputy chief has to have a minimum of 5 years experience as a lieutenant or captain before they can be considered as a deputy chief at the police department.
I don't think that job description's been written yet. I just heard you say that.
No,
Worked it up.
I'm talking about
Yeah.
as a deputy chief for the police department, not fire department. Okay.
Well,
So why would we do something different for the fire department? I'm missing something.
Let's let Captain Chandler, he's back here because I referenced you, because you're the only policeman in here. What do y'all do from within?
So our promotion policy is based off a policy. We do have a policy in place that references this. Say like Mr. Justice said, with a deputy chief, you have to have so many years of experience in leadership as a lieutenant or a sergeant, something to that effect. But I can pull up policy and recite it for you if you want. But there is a policy that guides our leadership promotions in-house. Except for the chief's command staff, he can appoint, anyone he wants to, because he is the chief. So there is some leeway there should the chief decide to go against the policy. There's that clause. I think our situation is quite different from the fire department because we have been around for so long. I've been here for 15 years. I'm a captain. Our deputy chief has been here close to 20 years. He's a deputy chief, and chief's been here over 20 years, and he's the chief. So there is some succession planning there that's in place.
I guess my motion would be at this point to, I think probably what we need to do is defer this to, and find out what the actual standard is across the nation, find out what is consistent within our city now with the other departments before we move forward, without having all of that information in front of us and know to make a decision. So I'd like to defer it one meeting or until they.
You want to defer the budget?
No, this motion that she's made within the budget.
Okay, is there any way we can go ahead and pass the budget and have something for that set aside for a
Come
different,
back in.
or is that it all together?
It's all in there. This is the budget.
What I would ask then is, then take this out and bring this in as a standalone policy change at the next meeting with the research and everything, the guidance from the department heads to make this consistent. So that it's consistent across the board rather than having one department doing one thing and another department doing another.
Okay, bring it in as a resolution?
Standalone,
I don't know that's, once we pass the budget's passed and the position is created and things begin to move at that point.
Well, we haven't passed the amendment yet.
No,
The budget takes effect July 1st, so we'd have another meeting.
but once the budget's passed, things start moving. I would suggest that we settle it now. It sounds like there's a motion and a second on the amendment and a motion and a second on the amendment to the amendment. Are you making a motion to defer this entire budget or
I don't think that's what I said. I said this amendment to the budget.
that's really not a proper motion.
Well,
can
then
defer
let's
what's
figure out
on
what
the
it is so that
table.
we can actually do this the correct way. I'm not going to pretend. Yes.
I'll make a motion to defer the whole budget over this because I could go along with saying this would be a preference or they'd be given first preference to
I
make
could
it.
go along with being a preference. I have
But
no
making
problem
it
with that. Mandate, I got a
mandatory-
problem with.
And we need this position. We don't need a compromise on this position here. We got a fire department. It's small to begin with, so it's a small pool. The police department's been around a lot longer. It's a lot bigger pool of candidates to choose from, and you've had a lot more progression and training along the way to get to that point. But we're at a point now where I think we're down to a dozen volunteers. We need to get people in place, the right people in place, and get this shared up. And I can't do it.
All right, there's a motion to defer the budget. Is there a second on that?
I'll second it. Just for the purpose of this, you know what? No, sir, at this point, I'm not going to second it. And if you'll make this after, if this doesn't work, what I would do at this point is
I would make a long ways to go.
Yeah. I'd like to make an amendment and.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay. And change that from a mandate to a preference.
I'll second your amendment.
Okay, we have an amendment to the amendment to make this a preference rather than a mandate. Any discussion on that? I can't support it, but I think the 3 lieutenants and 3 captains deserve the first shot at this.
Again, they're getting a preference. If they are getting a preference, they're going to get first shot at it. He's already said that.
And then.
But then you're going to make him come back to the city commission and have us dabbling in the day-to-day operation of the city when that's this man's job, not ours.
Nobody's dabbling in it.
Well, if we're going to make him come back to us as to who he can hire, yeah, that is
No,
absolutely.
I think we're settling that right now.
Okay.
Okay, there's an amendment to the amendment to make this a preference rather than a mandate. There's a motion and a second. All in favor of that one, signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, nay.
Nay.
That amendment fails. Amendment to the amendment fails. Back on the other original amendment to the amendment, which is still 1 year of experience plus a mandate to hire from within.
How many of the department, Jamie, is instructor qualified?
Sir,
How many people in your department is instructor qualified?
I'd have to go back and check records, sir. I'm unprepared for this action tonight, but I've got the job description that I was prepared to deliver to HR first thing in the morning.
Your lieutenants and captains, it takes X amount of experience to get to that level
Yes.
for deputy chief. So how many currently do you have that are already qualified on staff?
According to a national standard, none.
None? But they have been there more than a year, but they're not
Yeah,
qualified?
they've been in this department for more than a year. I can't, they've had previous experience in other departments, but at a, lower rank and, from their time as a probationary firefighter all the way to the rank that they hold now in our department.
Okay. So currently you have no one on staff that you could hire that would meet this qualification?
I can get the job description and get that information. Now, of course, I don't have it tonight, but I've got the job description with me. It's just the amount of time that we're asking for folks to have been in supervision, 1 year is just not enough.
It wasn't 1 year in supervision. It was 1 year with our department.
Right, sir. I'd even prefer it to be 1 year with supervision, but it's we're 7 years old. We're getting ready to add a third station, 15 additional firefighters. Going to have folks that can, or looking for somebody that's at least a fire officer 3, which is just below my ranking. Somebody that's an instructor in-house, somebody that's an inspector that can help with 3.6 million square feet of Amazon, the SEVAs, the Green Hill High Schools, the new fire station. I mean, a lot of these folks don't have that.
So you're laying out the case that you are planning to hire from outside.
No, sir. I'm just saying they are going, I spoke with Janet today, and there is going to be an internal posting. There's also going to be an external posting. Because this is, like I said, this is requiring a great deal of experience and certification, and I want to make sure that we get the right person. Don't know if that's in-house, don't know if that's out-house. Or that's not a good way of putting it. Yeah, sorry. But no, I would like the opportunity to do as we normally do, and at the level that we're asking for this position, to be able to advertise it in-house and outside.
Yeah,
But if you advertise in-house first, I thought you said you don't really have anybody.
I don't know. I don't know that. I want to open this up, apply the job description to the folks that are in-house, and also apply it outside to make sure that we're looking for the very best talent that's out there.
I think I'm going to continue to support this. I hope it does pass. But I would say to you that if your search internally turns up no one, that just come back to us. I think it's very easily explainable at that point. Right now, it sounds like maybe there is someone inside, but maybe there's not. And sounds like 2 of the commissioners want you to have the flexibility to go outside, but 3 sounds like they want you to promote from within, which is definitely my preference.
Preference, that word keeps coming up. Preference, not
Yes.
mandate. That's
It
all I'm
says
saying.
mandate.
Excuse me, guys, I have the floor.
Well, then I appreciate some common sense going along with it.
Yeah, and
It's not
so
happening so far.
So again, I would like the candidates to be examined in the department, promoted from within, and then come back to us if no one can meet that qualification that you've set. I think that's pretty straightforward. All right, calling for a vote on the amendment to the amendment, which means 1 year minimum with the,
Actually, I need one more statement, if I may.
yes, sir.
Bring your applications to the mayor and the 2 others that vote for this, and let them pick for you, because obviously what you think doesn't matter. Okay, go continue.
That is not going to happen. No one up here is going to choose the candidate.
We're going to give permission to a department head that answers to that man. That's not, I mean, he doesn't follow in our chain of command.
This is a proper motion. We're going to vote on it.
I think it's completely improper.
Okay, we're on the amendment to the amendment, which requires a minimum 1 year with our department. Also mandates that the person be hired for the deputy chief be an in-house person. All in favor of that, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
No.
That amendment passes 3-2. Other items on the budget. By the way, Chief, before you get away, I do want to commend you. Ms. Dana will let you know, I've been checking the financials about every 2-3 months in your department. You are doing a fabulous job.
Thank you.
I knew you could do this job. The revenues are way above expectation, and your expenses are way under expectation. So, I mean, I heartily commend you. You've done a great job with this department this year.
Thank you.
And I'm excited that we're moving forward with the new fire station at Lebanon Road, and I'm excited that we're moving forward with a new position. Other comments on the budget?
Yes, I have, it's page 22, the grants. There was 30,000 moved from the RTA station, but the funding for the 30,000 did not get added to the grant total.
Is this a mathematical mistake?
I think it's a communications mistake.
It was to increase the grant total by the 30. So we just need
It's the
to-
same amount of money. It's just showing that the RTA grant is in fact a grant. It's to capture it in a separate section.
Okay. Is there a second on that?
Make sure,
I'll second it.
yeah, if not, we got to carve 30 grand out of the grants budget someplace else.
There wasn't?
This is on page 22.
I believe that's correct. Yes. How to capture the money. We added the RTA grant to grants. So we need to bring the RTA money to the grants budget.
Okay. Questions or comments on the amendment? All in favor of that signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Other comments on the budget?
I've got also one here for the South Green Hill Road traffic signal. I think it'll be a total of a transfer of 60,000 from the general fund. And if Andy is here somewhere, I'd call on him to explain exactly what's doing, but this is a matching grant from TDOT that I'd like to get captured in the budget.
Okay, do we have Mr. Okay, here he comes. What page?
It's not in the budget. It's a motion to add it.
To add what now?
Add 60,000 from the general fund for this signal project that Andy's
Okay.
going to walk us through.
Certainly. So I was approached by TDOT, I guess it's been a few months ago now, but they are looking to do safety improvement project at the railroad crossing of South Green Hill Road and what was Nashville and Eastern, now it's R.J. Corman Rail Line. Part of that project would involve basically rebuilding the traffic signal there at the crossing, as well as what's tied in there at West Division Street. Now that signal there, it has some elements to it that are tied in already, but we are looking at the potential for trying to upgrade the equipment there, upgrade it to your standard mast arms, also some better detection equipment, trying to help some operations. I think the biggest benefit for the citizens is the operation benefit that we're going to be trying to go for. So long story short on this is a project that is 90% funded by TDOT or with federal funds and only 10% to the city. And so as far as that's concerned, every part of the project is 10% us. All we have to do is basically write a check, and they are going to be able to do that work for us, have their own consultant on board. We will have input as the process goes along, obviously, but to me, I believe it is a good monetary value. That signal is one that is going to be needing some serious work to it in the near future with some of the poles that we have there. And so we are going to be incurring some maintenance costs here in the very near future if this project did not come along. In fact, we were discussing that internally. So to have this come up, I think the timing was good for us. Do support this project being added to the budget. Basically, once this passes with the budget and in the new budget year, we will write them a check. I believe it's $8,200. I believe is what it's actually less than the $10,000 that we have shown for engineering, but $8,200, and that should get the project designed. So
Just a
basically
quick
write them a
question.
check
Is
and get
the
started.
60,000 our total, is that our 10%?
That's it. Yes.
That's the total of our 10%,
Yes.
counting that engineering you made.
That's including rounding up.
Yeah, and then the second question is, we have a quiet zone signal there. Is that maintained?
That is correct. That is maintained as part of the project. That's one of the big things that I did discuss with them. That we do have the quiet zone agreement with Nashville and Eastern, now transferred to R.J. Corman. So they understand that it is part of the project.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, I think we spent $250,000 on that quiet zone, didn't we?
More than that. Other questions or comments on the amendment? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Other comments on the budget?
I got another question for our Public Works Director. We got several transportation projects, kind of in the hopper. And are we looking at any obstacles for you being able to move forward on that engineering wise internally, or that was presented in the budget that we're overlooking? Because from my standpoint, there's not a bigger pressing issue for this city than these transportation projects.
No, we do not foresee any obstacles at this time. Pushing forward with all projects.
Okay, other comments on the budget? Okay, I have one comment I'm going to make, and I guess we'll vote. It was only 1 year ago we were told the sky is falling, that we must have a tax increase. And not just a tax increase, we must triple or quadruple our tax rate. All of that was to go to the fire department. Thankfully, it was defeated. Here we are 1 year later. The tax was never needed in any way. The fire department is in incredible shape financially. Revenues are more than expected. Expenses are less than predicted. We are hiring a new full-time assistant fire chief and building a new fire station on Lebanon Road. All of this in a very difficult year. We spent more than $2 million related to tornado damage cleanup, and our businesses have been closed due to the coronavirus. We've had many citizens losing their jobs, having their work hours reduced, and so forth. We watch as Nashville is proposing a 32% tax increase. We gasp. How can you expect people to pay 32% more in tax when they have lost their jobs, when their pay is cut, their hours reduced, their business is in distress? 32% is crazy. But the tax proposal here was not for a mere 32%. It was for a 350% increase. And for what? Wasn't needed. To recklessly grow the size of government. Now here we are in election year. In an election year, all of a sudden, no mention of a tax increase. Psych. Watch your pockets next year, Mount Juliet. Those same politicians will tell you the sky is falling, that government must grow, that you get to pay for it. Many of you lost your job, had your pay reduced, lost your work hours, your business is in distress, your government employees have not shared in that pain. The city did not lay off a single person. No one had their pay cut. Everyone's benefit package remained the same. And in fact, your government employees got a raise while you who pay the taxes to pay for government were suffering. They also got the $1,200 each from the federal government, just as you did. That's all that I have to say about the budget this year. And I guess we will see what comes of it next year. Vice Mayor.
Is Rocky Lee here? I'd like to.
I don't know.
Yes.
Mayor, I'm gonna step back.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lee, you sent over some information about Parks Land.
Yes, sir.
And you were recommending the Tomlinson property?
Yes, sir. We came at y'all last time on our capital improvements, looking for 4 tracts of land that we were bringing before the board to get your opinion on. And then we were sent back to task for more information. After looking further into these 4 tracts of land, 3 of them we've put on the shelf till later because of so many moving parts. We couldn't do anything with them this year, but the Tomlinson property, the 57 acres for $975,000 is the request we're sending and asking for to buy for parkland. With this single purchase here, we will almost double our parkland.
And what's your cost on the property?
It's $975,000, around $17,000 an acre, I think.
Well, I'll make a motion that we include that amount in the budget for the purchase of parks land.
Okay, is there a second on that? Okay, hearing no
Oh.
second.
Well, I was going to say, I'll second because I want to ask a question.
Let me ask first.
Okay.
We deleted the bond issue for the parks on first reading.
That's correct.
Do we have other monies available, or is this just an
It's out of
add-on to the
reserves,
budget?
just out of reserves.
Okay, just wanted to clear that up. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Is this money not already in the parks and hotel and motel tax?
We should have at the end of the year about 2.8 million in hotel motel tax that can be spent on parks capital projects.
Which
Would
is where
include
this
the
will come
parkland.
from?
Yes.
Okay.
That's where that would come from. Right now in the budget, there's 6.7 million. So the hotel motel tax will not cover that. You'll have to use unappropriated fund balance to cover the rest if that's indeed what you want to spend on parkland. Otherwise, you can reduce the 6.775 million to whatever amount that you're, for example, the track that he's wanting to purchase. You could reduce the 6.7 to 975. This is just appropriating money to purchase parkland, whatever property that is.
You're just moving money?
Sorry?
You're just
Just
moving?
reducing the appropriation. Right now, you're saying you want to spend 6.75 million in money for parkland. You can reduce that amount to the 975, which would cover the hotel motel tax reserve would cover that, and you wouldn't have to pull from other reserves.
But does that include that 5 million that we took off the table?
That's revenue. That's
Oh,
the
okay.
borrowings. That has no
I got you.
bearing on it.
Okay. I got you.
So,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, my intention in here is to earmark the money in the budget for this so that hopefully we can move ahead with the exploration. It gives us the options to move ahead with the contract of phase one on this, to look at the land and actually do the studies. I think we have to show the intention in order for our intention as a board for this, to get staff, to give them the ability to move forward on this. And I don't think there's any other way to get a phase one done than to show that you're actually interested in completing the purchase.
Well, may I say something?
Yes, sir.
If it does go on, if you look at the listing for that property, they have in comments on there that says, make an offer. So it was reduced, if I'm not mistaken, down to the 975. And now there's comments on there, make an offer. So we need to do our diligent work if this passes and try to save as much of the city's money, the park money as we can. So
Yes,
just
sir.
FYI, we need to make sure.
I think what we're looking for now is just really a letter of intent to let us pursue, to pursue further on this tract of land. After the land, what we've been looking at, this is really good price. And the other three tracts have got so many contingencies, we couldn't meet them. But this one here, I think is in our budget, and it's something that we need desperately, is land. They're not making any more. And we're running out here in Mount Juliet, people buying it up. So we're just asking you, please give us a shot. And we're not asking to buy the land today. We're just looking to get a letter of intent so we can pursue this land further.
Hey, Rocky, let me offer a couple of comments. And
Yes, sir.
this really goes back a couple of years ago. The Parks Board had asked for money for a master study on parks.
Yes, sir.
Remember that?
I mean,
At the time, we had the Baltz Farm property, and we were pretty close to
Yeah.
negotiating it. And it was said at this board, and I know by me, we really don't need to get a study done by professionals, by engineers, when we know what we need, and we had a shot at getting about 100 acres at Baltz, which I think everybody said that was their first choice on the 4 tracks that you
Right.
presented. Anyway, I'm thinking back now, we missed that opportunity for whatever reason. Since then, you all came in and you said, hey, we're going to take out some ball fields at Charlie Daniels and build an indoor swimming pool. And there were questions about that. And then some folks came and said, hey, well, we don't really need that. We need a Jimmy Floyd type facility. And then some people talked about that. And then we said, no, we really need soccer fields. And then somebody said, we've already got soccer fields that aren't used over at Park Glen. I guess the soccer club contracted with us and never did anything.
Right.
Or whatever. And then now we've got the Tomlinson property. It's bad acts. It's it's a rough piece of land. It's a flag lot, bad flag lot, hard to get to, hilly. The terrain's really bad. And your write-up said we can use it for a nature trail.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's our need right now. Maybe we need the Jimmy Floyd. Maybe we need the soccer. Maybe we need just acreage. Maybe we do need a nature trail. I don't know. I'm really coming full circle. I'm almost to the place where, hey, we need professional help. We need somebody to come in and do an analysis and say, what you guys need is to pursue X.
Right.
Instead of, it feels like we're just grabbing it. And I know land's getting away from us and we feel like we got to grab something. We got some money to spend, so we want to spend it. But I just feel like we're not on task, we're not on point here. We're just sort of grabbing at straws.
Yes, sir. And we really, for the city our size population we got, we're shameful when it comes to parks. I'm embarrassed because we've only got probably 50-something acres of parkland that you could use. One of them was 29 acres, Monday Park, that we've turned into a youth football so we could open up Charlie Daniels, 26 acres. And that's really what we have is a 26-acre park. No fields, no anything like that. Then we get satellite parks. We get 5 or 6 acre satellite parks. And that's what we got to show. In total, we're around 80 acres for 35,000 people. It's just not, for me as your parks director, that's a reflection on me. It's a reflection on all of us.
Well, the
And I'm just trying to do harder, better for these people.
the greenways are considered linear parks, and we've done really, really well in that area. But I just feel like we're just kind of grasping at, whatever is the hot idea at the time. And I hate to even give up on.
And we
I
are.
know you're saying the other three, we can't meet the contingencies. Maybe we can.
Well,
I don't know.
And maybe we can. But I just know, I just feel like we need so much right now. We do need a swimming pool. We do need a Jimmy Floyd. We do need land. But we got to take baby steps. We got to do them one at a time is what I found. And right now, the Thompson property is prime. I've been on that thing 10 times. We've got potential. I just got to have somebody trust me that what I'm saying is what we need. And till we get there, I'll be here with you and I'll do as you need.
Do we need a nature trail? Really?
Yes, it does well in the Smoky Mountains in Gatlinburg. They're doing well
It's a
there.
little bit different.
Radnor Lake is doing well. I'm just saying, we want to be a diverse park, not all ball fields. And I think that's what I'm reaching out for. I want to give you something. When you come by June, it's going to be something a little bit different than what you get in any other city. And that's what we strive to do. We want to give you the best we've got. And I think this fits the bill. And of course, it's at y'all's mercy. All I can do is just pitch it up. You either hit it out or you throw it away.
Man, if we had a shot again at that ball, we were so close.
Yeah.
It would have been so perfect. And it wasn't a nature trail. It would have been other
Right.
things. But anyway, Commissioner.
The $8,000 to $10,000 estimate in your email,
Yes, ma'am.
what does that include?
What that was going to include is bring in milling. We do all the roads and parking lots ourselves inside the park. We'll push it out, we'll grade it, and that lets me lay down a road bed of milling. It's the chopped up asphalt. And that'll be our parking lot and our roadway coming in. And then after 2-3 years, when that presses down, we'll come back and we'll pave it like we have every park we've got.
How far in would that take?
It's about 1,000 feet.
1,000 feet.
It'll bring you into 1,000 feet with about a 70 by 70 parking lot to start. And also, Mr. Mayor, we could come in with heavy machinery. Like I said, if we want to, we can push land around here and create ball fields back here. It is hilly and it does have peaks and valleys, but with enough machinery, hey, we can make it anything we want. It's not a floodplain. I know that.
What would that cost?
Oh, it's going to cost a lot. It's like anything else. It's going to cost you. But to me, it's got some validity to it. And I think it's something we need to take a shot at. If not by it now, at least let's look into it further. Let's delve into this.
What could be some options down the road for this piece of property?
Well, there's several. We could put pavilions in with walking trails. We could do cross-country trails with clubs. We could put in zip lines. I know we got liability issues and stuff.
We can put in, this limited really what we can do. Again, like I said in the email, it depends on your imagination. And yeah, it's hard to just sit here within 2 minutes and start naming a bunch of stuff this part, but it's got great potential. For the price in Mount Juliet, when you find land for $17,000 an acre, hey, you're from what we've been looking at land going at 500,000 acres, 100,000 acres.
Of course, this would at some point require annexation
Yes, ma'am.
and that's in the urban growth area, I guess.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
A low price, that's, I guess, good, but nobody else is buying it either, so something's wrong.
I mean, it is a flag lot, and it's got some hills, it's got some valleys, but I think it has potential too. I think it's something we need to give a better look to. Let's go look at it, but like I said, all I can do is come up here and recommend it. It's up to y'all.
All right, thank you. Well, the amendment is to purchase it.
We'll appropriate the money.
Okay, what is that does not mean purchase it?
That means to do your due diligence, and bring back a contract and step through it that way.
Other comments?
Can I just ask a question? Is that to reduce the 6.7 to 975? Or is that we're leaving the 6.7 as is?
The way I see this is you've got the 6.7 earmarked in the budget for this land, correct? Or
Yes.
land total.
Parkland.
And we took the $5 million bond off the table. So you're tying up 6.7 million of our reserve fund.
Yes.
Am I?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So that was to replace that. So we're freeing up that money potentially for transportation plans.
Hey, let me get city engineer back in here. Is he still in the hallway?
We got the money. We've got the money already.
Mr. Barlow?
We can buy it anytime.
You were with Reagan Smith. I just question for you. If we were to commission a park study, just not something that could be done fairly quickly. What kind of time frame are we looking at?
Time frame, you're probably looking at, you want some public involvement in there for sure. I think you probably have a pretty good plan developed in about 6 months. You're probably looking at maybe more like 8 to 10 months to actually get something adopted, I would say, just judging from the time frame, from what we were running through on our transportation plan. I think you're going to have a little bit less involvement on that than you would have had on your transportation plan. But I think you're probably, looking at that 8 to 10 month time frame total to adoption.
Ballpark, what's the study like that involve money?
It could vary. It really kind of depends on the scope and how in depth you want to go with it. Do you want to get down to what activities you want at each location? But if you wanted something a little more broad, obviously you're probably talking less. You're probably talking closer to that $50,000 to $75,000 range. If you're talking something more detailed, you're probably talking maybe that $100,000 to $125,000 range. It's a guesstimate anyway.
All right, thanks. I'm going to make an amendment to the amendment that we use some of these parks monies that's in the account up to $125,000 for to engage an engineer for a park study. Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Okay, questions or comments on the amendment?
I just have a question for Mr. Lee on that. Is what you see us gaining other than on these properties? I mean, is this something we can use to build out a long-term range for any potential properties as well? Or I don't know, Mayor, maybe are you looking at just scope for just land purchase or the whole?
Well, I was thinking
beginning to end.
Well, I guess I'm going back to my earlier comments. One day we were talking about an indoor pool. The next day we're talking about a Jimmy Floyd. Next day we're talking about a soccer field. Next day we're talking about nature trails.
And in 2009,
we need a professional to say, hey, here's what you need to be focused on.
We did in 2009, we had park task come in and did an assessment, needs assessment for the parks. And the number one was land. And that was our number one thing. They came back and told us land. And then the second thing was swimming pools. So what we did when we came back here with swimming pools at Jimmy Ford Center, we had 2.8 million earmarked for parks. Instead of it just sitting there, we were trying to put it into motion for the citizens. And what we decided to do when we couldn't find any land, we kept running into just walls. We couldn't hit nothing with land. So we decided, hey, let's build a Jimmy Floyd. Then we were tasked to go back and try to find some land. Then we've gone found land. Land around here is moving hard. From what we've seen, we've spent 3 years on this, looking for land. The Parks Board, a lot of people have done their due diligence. And what we found in 3 years of trying is this Tomlinson property is our best shot right now. But again, the part test is done, the needs assessment. We're well aware of our needs and our, during the assessment. And we just, we got 2.8 million. It's not doing anybody any good sitting in the bank. We need to put it to use for the park system, what it was earmarked to do. And that's what we're trying to do.
Gotcha. Okay. Other comments on the amendment to the amendment?
Okay, so the amendment on the table is $125,000 that you want the engineering firm to go in this particular piece of property or any?
It's a broader,
Be for the whole city.
it's a broader study to say, hey, we got to, instead of just, we want a pool, we want nature trail, we want soccer, somebody to guide us, professional to guide us and say, these are the things that you need to focus on. I mean, it's done. Those are done pretty frequently, right? Different cities engage professional help to study the park system. Now, Reagan Smith, did you all not do that at Reagan Smith or not?
I've got a question. You don't have to get up, but is there an accelerated one that could go a little faster than that?
Well, I'll stand up here so I can get on camera, so get it recorded. You could, I think a lot of really what you're looking at would be some type of land study, not necessarily a park study. I think you're probably looking at something a little bit more like a land study. I would say that to some degree, I think that's a little bit of what the exercise has been gone through. But it would be something to establish, I don't know. I don't want to speak for Rocky or the Parks Board at all. But I know that what you'd probably be looking for there would be population densities, population centers, locations of existing parks, and trying to spatially set out wherever the parks needed to go. So really, I think that is really more or less just a study of the available parcels that are out there and trying to identify areas. It doesn't guarantee you land is available. It just basically tells you where you might need parks in the future.
That answer your question?
Yeah, is that accelerated though? I mean, how long do you think that would take?
You could probably do that in a few months, I would say. It depends on how fast you get, if we do it internally, or if that's something that we procure an outside firm. If you procure an outside firm, that's the process that's going to take the longest. That'll probably take longer than actually going through and doing a land analysis.
Do you have manpower to do this internally?
I want to defer to Kenny on that one, but I don't want to speak for other departments. I know Public Works, it would be a little bit of a stretch, but I don't know where we're sitting with the remainder of staff here at City Hall, Rocky, his staff, and whatnot. I would say though, we would need some assistance as far as evaluation of land. I know in particular we use Gino and his team on our land acquisition, on our transportation projects and closings and things like that. And so as far as title searches, you'd need to do that. I think that would be important as well. once you get narrowed down to specific parcels. And so we use them for that as well. And so we would have to utilize some outside help for sure in some certain items.
Other questions on the amendment to the amendment?
I
Other
have a
comments?
question. Andy, so to summarize, the 125,000 would get you what? Suggestions?
I think the 125,000 would be a front to back, something comparable to what we passed with the transportation plan earlier this year. It's going to be something that is a 25-year type plan. It's going to give you, as we grow as a city, it's going to give you areas that you need park, corridors that you need parks. It's going to tell you the kind of ideas. It's going to give you some ideas of park activities, ball fields, which you might like to see. Obviously, that's with our input, but that's going to be much more in depth than what you'd be looking at maybe for just this one-time purchase.
All right, so this particular piece of land, I guess my question is, if we don't do the 125,000, then say if we did go ahead and get that, I don't really know what I want to ask here. If we don't do the 125,000, would the Parks Department be Parks Department just be left to on their own go out and look for land kind of thing without the 125,000, which is where we are right now?
Yes, and that's with the
Ultimately.
assistance of the Parks Board. I know that they've provided a lot of assistance and input on that.
This mostly park board that's been out looking for this land. We got like 8 people settled in. It's with the community that's been searching for this. And they put in a lot of time and a lot of hours. And that's the reason we come with this recommendation. This is not lightly taken. There's a lot of hours put into this. A lot of good people spend a lot of free time looking for this. We're not just grasping. We have looked. We've done our due diligence. And we know if y'all look into it and you sign on, you're going to appreciate what we've done. But without putting boot on ground, I can't make you like this property till you get out there on it. All I can do is tell you about it.
So I guess what I'm getting at is you're already doing that anyway.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if adding the 125,000, does it just add an extra level of, and I don't want to use this word, but I think you kind of know what I'm asking maybe. Does it just add another level of bureaucracy?
Yeah, I think it makes y'all feel better. I already know what I need. But I mean, if it makes y'all feel better to do this, so, I mean, I'm all for it. We had a need assessment. We know what our needs are. And that's what I'm coming here with right now. What my needs are. My needs are swimming pools, a community center, gyms, and land. Those are what I need. And I got $2.8 million to provide the citizens with that.
Do you think this 125,000 would help you get you what you need?
No, ma'am, I do not personally. Mm-mm.
So you just want to go out there and grab a piece of property?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep. I've walked this land and I've been in parks 20 years.
And your opinion
This has
is
been my
that the
life.
highest priority of our city right now is a nature trail?
And my 2.8 million, yes, sir, to get land is our highest priority. And everything I've looked at has got so many moving parts that depend on the planning commission, the board of commissioners. I can't answer for everybody, what everybody else is doing. All I can do is go out, find what my needs are. It's like anything else. When I bought my house, I wanted a 3-story big house with 4-car garage. I couldn't afford it. So I'm getting what I can afford. I'm getting what I think the people can use. And I think that's my job, is find something I think I can use and make for a park to make this city better. And I take this serious. I really do. And I try to give you the best director I can give you. Yes, sir.
I'm willing to withdraw my original motion and just take more time to look at this. If it'll make everyone more comfortable up here before we move ahead.
So what would that mean for the budget?
It just, well, the
Just what
money's
it
there.
is.
You can buy it anytime you want to.
The money is there. It could
Yeah.
come back at a next meeting, for that matter.
Yeah.
But,
Okay, so how do we move forward? If we chose to move forward with this, what's the next step to move forward with that?
well, sounds like the motion is withdrawn.
We'll need, whoever seconded would need to agree, I think.
That was.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Okay, so that's off the table, but if you want to bring it back at a future date, I would suggest you get with Rocky, go to this land, determine if a nature trail is what you think is the best use for your constituents, and then bring it back to mimic his motion.
Okay, so the passage of the budget tonight is not going to make a difference on that piece of property. Is that what you're saying?
No.
No, I mean, we have the roughly 2.5 million in the hotel motel on that, and it can be brought back at any time to make that purchase. The money's not going away.
I mean,
Okay, so-
yeah, it can be done anytime because it's there, already earmarked for that.
If I could just ask you next Parks Board meeting.
Yes, sir.
To ask the board if a park study would be helpful to them, then we can bring that idea back at a future date
I'll do
as
it.
well. But, I mean, I highly respect the Parks Board. I'm not trying to, I'm not comfortable with, well, we need this, that,
All right.
that. You
And
know, I'd like to
understand.
be on
Yeah.
be on a plan, be on the
Right.
same page. But certainly walk the property if you want to and see where you're at on that. And I will point, Commissioner Justice stepped away from the table. He is the realtor on this track. So he has a conflict, can't vote, but the rest of us certainly ought to do some level of study.
He's probably seen it.
Huh?
He's probably seen it.
Oh, I'm sure he's seen the property, but I can't vote.
But we also voted to remove him from the negotiations, like he can't be involved, right?
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Still on the budget, 3 times amended. Other questions or comments?
You withdrawing your amendment too then?
Mine was an amendment to
motion.
the amendment.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
I
Yeah.
would like to hear the Parks Board input on that.
Yeah.
Because there was actually a time when they requested a study. I actually argued against it because we were so close on the vaults property. I thought, well, that would be a waste of money to spend a bunch of money on a study when we know exactly what we would love to get, and we we're not able to secure it. Back on the budget, any other comments?
Got one.
Yes, sir.
You know, it was mentioned last year, a 350% tax increase, and that was not what was being asked for at the table. But, you know, we were able to put another fee or tax out there to help fund the fire department, and the fund balance is well this year. So for that, I'm grateful. I tell you, I got what I wanted out of that, which was the fire department funded. So I'm appreciative of that. But it was mentioned tonight that running around like the sky was falling. I just remind everyone that on March 3rd, for a certain portion of this city, the sky did fall for a lot of people. And we had less responders responding as a result of last year's budget because of the cuts of positions. We'd lost almost half of our volunteers, and we had people stuck in their homes out there. And while we're looking at staff cuts after that budget. So to say running around like the sky was falling, sometimes you have to carry on like the sky's falling because you never know when it is.
Okay, is there an amendment there, or is that a motion, or is that just a comment?
That's just a comment.
Okay.
I'd also throw in that, you know, let's talk about what's not being done in election year. There's no proposed cuts for first responders in the election year either this year. So we talk a lot about supporting the police, but you don't have to look far back to see cuts to the fire department when you talk about first responders.
And we're adding fire chief actually in this budget and adding a new fire station. Other comments on the budget? By the way, Ms. Dana, I commend you. I thought it was very well done. Do you have any read for us yet on the impact to revenue from the tax side?
Not yet. The last month's sales tax did come in about 2.9%, 2.19% lower than the year before. I expect next month, which represents April's sales, to be a bit lower, but there's going to be an offset because essential businesses were open. Their sales, they went up. A lot of people were online shopping, and because Tennessee participates in the direct sales where online sales go back to the point of purchase, I expect those sales to actually go up. It's going to be difficult to predict. I watched a economic update to the state board budget or budget board, and there were 5 economists on there that gave 5 different perspectives of what that recovery looks like. So we're still monitoring it. I should know by June 19th what the sales tax are for April. And so as soon as I get that information, I'll pass that along to you.
Thank you very much. Very good job, I thought,
you,
on the
sir.
budget. Very, very appreciative. Other comments? All ready to vote on the
I make
budget?
a motion to defer one meeting time so we can hear from the fire chief.
Is there a second to deferring the budget? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the budget on second and final reading. All in favor, as amended 3 times tonight? Is that right? 3 times? Yes, 3 times tonight. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
How did you vote?
No, I voted aye.
Oh, I'm
To pass.
sorry. That budget is approved 3-1 with 1 absent.
Now, did we not need him back in on the vote for the final vote for the budget or not?
Just need a quorum.
Okay.
All right, next item is item 9B1, an ordinance to amend the plan unit development known as the Providence Central PUD, being located in the area of Adams Lane, Central Pike, and Providence Parkway, map 96, parcel 2, map 97, parcels 23, 2401, 25, 75, 7502, 7504, and 7505, Wilson County, Tennessee. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments from the commission?
I just would like to say that I'm going to vote, this is going to be my vote to pass this along. Now, it's first reading, and I want it noted that, yes, it does include apartments. I'm not voting for the apartments necessarily, but I'm voting to pass it along for further discussion. I still have a lot of questions that I would like to see. I think it's a good overall development. And when I talk to a lot of constituents, I tried to objectively, because I didn't know how I was going to vote, paint the big picture so that they got a feel, pros and cons. And I did mention the cons, how that, so that they could give me an objective feedback. And so I did get a lot of it. There were several, of course, that doesn't like the apartments. I personally don't like apartments. I'm not thrilled about that part. But in this seat, I also feel like I have to look at the big picture and consider everything. So I am not voting to send this along because I particularly like the apartments, but I do like the infrastructure, which the developers offered to put in $7 million within the development first. So there's a lot of things I do like about it. And I think it overall would be good for the city. And I think it's an important enough development to continue discussions and get it passed tonight so that we can ask more questions and talk about it further. One of the questions I have too, which doesn't really have to do with that, but it would be affected, the traffic signals along Providence. You know, that's a big issue. So of course, there's going to be a window of extra traffic burden on Mount Juliet Road before that Central Pike interchange goes in. So my question is there anything that can be done with those traffic signals along Mount Juliet Road to maybe sync better? Is there anything that can be done to help that extra traffic burden on that road?
Yeah, that's a great question. We did have the adaptive signal project in there. That's been about 4.5 years, I believe, since we went operational on that project. We do have an upgrade to that project that will provide some more advanced communications, some more advanced analysis of those intersections. And so as part of that process that's going on right now, we will have some better timing plans, some better plans for future on this. And one of the things that we do anticipate with this, I think it's a great observation that until the time that the Central Pike interchange comes on board, there will be some additional burden here on Mount Juliet Road, particularly at the Providence Parkway intersection. I think there will be some offset to that with a connection to Central Pike. The connectivity, I think, will help us as far as trying to offset some of the traffic load from South Mount Juliet Road. So there is some benefit there. But yes, to answer your question, we will have that in place. I expect that construction will be completed. In fact, we'll have various phases of that project completed probably within the next year to year and a half. I'd say we'll be finished with it within about 2 to 2.5 years. And so, which is going to be squarely at the time that this project, if it passes in it, as we sit here tonight, that would start to generate a lot more traffic volumes. And so with all that being considered, I think the advanced signal operations that we're going to be having by that time frame will really help give us the ability to analyze the traffic and to adapt more quickly to changes as that demand comes from this development.
Okay, since that's a state road, does the city have the authority to adjust traffic signals, or would that be something that would come from TDOT?
No, that is, TDOT places that wholly within the controls of the local government. So despite the fact it is a state road, the local governments across the state do have that responsibility to maintain the signals and any timings thereof.
All right, I'm going to ask this question because there was in the planning commission meeting, it was suggested, it was brought up that there would be no occupancy in the apartments until the overpass over Mount Juliet Road is completed. Now, I did not know this when I talked to my constituents, but I found out that was pulled. Was that right?
I don't believe it was pulled, no. I believe that remained a condition.
Can we get John? Oh, John.
I think you're correct.
Condition was that either the bridge is completed, but not later than December 1st of 2021.
Okay, so it wasn't pulled, but they added a date in there.
Yes.
Okay, because I know it's going out for bid late summer, early fall this year. And the window you had given was 18 months for the widening project.
Yes, I believe so. I think we're going to probably have substantial completion within about 12 to 14 months. I would say it'll be a little bit faster than that 18-month window.
Okay, because I did really like the fact that the rentals couldn't be done until the widening project was complete. So, okay, I'm glad you clarified that. So that it would be in December, a year from December.
Yes.
Because, I mean, I can understand if with no date in there, it could just be an unending thing. So, I mean, I can see that too. How does, I don't know if it's appropriate time to ask, the bidding process, is that done through TDOT?
Yes, on this project it is because it's a state road over an interstate that this all goes with TDOT. It's all electronic. Depends on if we are able to have this be done in August or September, depending on which date we are able to meet. I believe we're getting everything in right now. And so that process is, it's all electronic. TDOT will receive all those bids. They'll go through the analysis process. Obviously, that's staff. Their staff goes through that and make sure that everything is okay. And then within probably about 30 to 45 days, they make that award after that letting date to the contractor. And then you probably have about 2 to 4 weeks of time frame for the contractor to begin work.
All right, so really the city's out of it. They don't have any control over the bidding process.
No, we do not.
Okay. When the Providence Parkway is extended to Central Pike, my question has to do with permits. Are there permits required to get with TDOT since Central Pike is a state road? So where are we in that process as far as connecting to a state road in acquiring a permit? What's the status of that?
So the way TDOT does that, you have to go through the local government with the approved plan. So they'll have to go through this process, final master development plan, and then construction plans. And once the construction plans are approved, then the owner, the representative, or the developer's representative would submit that application to TDOT, and they go through the approval process through TDOT. It's a relatively simple process. It can take a couple of months, but it is a relatively simple process.
Okay. That's really all the questions I have, other than to say I do plan on voting to pass it first reading because I think it's a big, important project enough to be considered more than just being about apartments. And also, I would like to further discuss Terry Nicholson's email she sent. And thank you, Terry. And I'm sorry we played phone tag. I never got to speak with you. She brings up some questions about the questionability of the Class A. I assume by Class A, she's referring to white-collar jobs. I'm guessing.
I would think so, yes.
Yeah, so I'm assuming in the talks that I've had with the developer, the office buildings would bring in the white collar jobs. That's my understanding. So, and then also on the apartments, she mentions, and I'm not familiar with this other McEwen plan. Do y'all know where that is?
That's across from where I work in Franklin.
Oh, okay.
That's just an illustration. That would be Adams Lane right there. Is that not correct?
Well, the McEwen plan's a different development out of Franklin. It's got different economic drivers that make that more feasible there than I think's here. But it's not really related. It's just an example.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't sure because I never heard of that. But she mentions that it shows 3 buildings of roughly 100 units per with ringed parking, but I thought it was 8 buildings. Yeah, it's 8 buildings totaling 310 units, maybe even closer to 300. So really there's not that many in each building is what it boils down to. So I'm not sure what she was looking at on the map. I'm just bringing it up because I wanted to clarify that and also to acknowledge to her that I am reading that. So I wanted to clarify that. And she also mentions 15 to 16 acres, which in my understanding it's 20. It's 20 acres, which turns out to be 15 and a half units per acre. Yeah. Okay. I think I don't think I had any further questions. I mean, I do have further questions, but I would like it to move further because I know there will be more questions. So that's all I had to say.
All right. Other comments on Providence Central?
Yeah.
Commissioner Giles?
I think I did get to talk with Terry. She did say, and I think what she was trying to do was use this as an illustration. If you look at the parking on the one that's being proposed, and you see all the parking places out there, and she called it, it was in the, it's called something.
Well, she mentioned that it was garden because of the parking layout. It looked to be garden.
Ring parking.
Style. Yeah, ring parking.
So that was the terminology. And I think that what she was getting at was that there's a lot of all this parking compared to this one here, where the parking was in a building. Okay. I think the emphasis is that when it's this way as this first example, there could be less crime and there could be less things going on because it's not all the way out there. I think she also emphasized that draws more of the Class A type office stuff. And I actually was not going to comment a whole lot, but the more I've been thinking about this over the last 2 days, I am going to comment. And I don't have to, because everybody knows when I become a commissioner, I walked and I talked to everybody that I could in my district. And here I am, and you can call me what you want to as a politician, but I have never voted for apartments that I recall. And I have stayed true to what I said. And there's reasons for that. When I walked and I talked to people, they said, we have enough apartments. Now, granted, I'm District 3, you're District 4, okay? So I didn't walk your district, but I did walk my district. And I made that promise, and I've never gone back on that I remember, okay? And I made that promise as well as other promises too. Well, not vote for a property tax increase, and I haven't. And recently, because of this tornado, I was in Clearview, and I told them I wouldn't vote for something, and it's very valid, and I'm going to keep my word, because that is one thing I am going to do. So I can't vote for the apartments, and that's the concept. The other thing that she brought up was that, and I think if I read this correctly, is that, and I think you read it, Sheila, as well, this was the concept that was approved years ago, something like this. Is that correct? And so it's changed from this concept to this concept, approximately. So, but you know, and I brought this up before too, about the apartments. My son, who is a sergeant in Metro, when he first was a patrol officer, he was in the apartment complexes, and he used to be in the Hermitage precinct. And I know where my son, and even before that he was at, but anyway, I know where my son was. You know, I know where he spent his time. And does that mean all apartments are bad? No. Have we all lived in apartments? Probably most of us have. And I mean, I have, but you know, we have a lot in Mount Juliet. And one of the things that came to me, we got these emails, let's support this. This is what we need for city, et cetera, et cetera. But there's also people calling that's in the chamber and saying, Art, you know, it should be condos. Thank God there's somebody else that agrees with me on that. It should be condos because people take pride in ownership. So as I've always mentioned through the years, why can't you take the apartment complex, the component of it, and make it condominiums for people to purchase and have fee simple ownership? You know, so you know my position. I wasn't going to say anything, and no, I wasn't going to abstain. I'm going to vote no. Y'all know this, but those are the things that concern me. And yes, we're going to talk about the widening of the bridge, and there's not going to be anything, but we still don't have the interchange at that we're supposed to get. We still don't have that. When are we supposed to get that? 7 years, 8 years? How many years has it been in the making? So all of this traffic, even though it's wide, it's going to be widened. And somebody came up to me. Oh yeah, when we had the flag display other week, you know, down at for Memorial Day, I got to go down there and I appreciate them, and I bought a flag. And one of the things somebody came up and says, everybody that lives past where Adams Lane is, and like going, they don't think that they're going to be able to get out. They're going to have to go towards Davidson County to be able to get out because of the traffic. So now granted, they're not in the city. I understand that. But, you know, there's a lot of things about this. There's still going to be a lot of traffic poured out in your area. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if we had the exit there on Central Pike that we're talking about, again, I mean, it would be, I mean, I still wouldn't vote for it because I said I wasn't gonna vote for it. But it would be easier, I think, for this board to vote for it because people could get on and on off the interstate right there without going down, whether when the bridge is widened or not. So I wasn't gonna say anything, but all of this came in and so anyway.
Other comments?
Yes, sir, please.
Yes, sir.
Some of us, Mayor, were around back in 2003, if you'll remember, when Providence was created. And you remember when that happened, that we were told that we were putting the cart before the horse because we were allowing the development without the infrastructure being in place. Now we're put into a position, I'm going to stop right there for just a second. I don't know where Andy Barlow went, but there you are. You're behind Gino. I can't see you. He's bigger than you are. My understanding from this letter that construction would begin prior to 2027. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what is the estimated construction time?
Year and a half.
So it'd take a year and a half. Okay. This Commissioner Clay Bright with the Tennessee Department of Transportation sent us this letter. First time I've ever actually seen a letter come from the Department of Transportation about a private development. I personally think it's a load of crap, considering that we've been trying to get 2 lanes added at 0.4 of a mile on Lebanon Road for 7 years that I'm aware of. And he's telling me that we're going to have an entire interchange built. So I don't believe it for a second. Continue with what I was saying. It was said that we were building Providence and we didn't have the infrastructure in place to contend with the traffic that we had and the traffic that we have. Now that traffic and what we see today is a direct result of us not having any idea what we were doing in 2003. There were some other pieces that were involved in that. But we're about to repeat the same mistake. We don't have this infrastructure at the interstate. We don't have this. We don't know that it's going to be built. Because a year and a half, we're going to be funded and built prior to 2027. It's going to take a year and a half because it could be as far down the line as 2029. And the infrastructure that we've got is going to be putting the cars. I think the assessment that I heard was 3,500 cars. Andy, is that correct? 3,500.
Project?
I'm sorry.
For this project?
Yeah.
Total.
I'm talking about just initially.
Initially, probably maybe more in the magnitude of, I'd say about 2,500.
2,500?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're going to be putting an additional 2,500 cars onto South Mount Juliet Road. And I can't see that being a good thing. We're continuing to crowd the road without providing the infrastructure first. And that is a mistake that we made in the eyes of some back in 2003, but it would definitely be the mistake that we make at this point. I say that. I also will tell you that a large number of the businesses that are growing over there right now, they're building the hotels, and Mr. Powers has got his shops over there. They made a conscious decision to invest a lot of money in that area based on a plan that was in place. Then for us to turn around and change that plan after they've made their investment without their input, I don't believe it's fair to those people that are in that area right now.
But who is it you're talking about?
Everybody who built in Graves Crossings and that whole area over there.
Oh, Graves Crossing.
I'm just talking about the entire area. Those people, they don't have any input. They made a conscious decision to invest millions of dollars into the buildings and their infrastructure that we made them pay for. Now, I've had numerous phone calls from people who live in the area over there. And their whole thing was, we don't want any new apartments. Now, I will tell you, I have never said, never. I've never said I'm not going to vote for apartments because I have voted for apartments. The gentleman that's involved in this right now, I believe is a high caliber class individual with a good vision. He had another project that was in our city, and I was in full support of that. So this has not got anything to do with the developer himself, but the development itself. And with the people that are calling me and that I've had contact with, that do live in your district, but I've been in contact with them. They're saying no more apartments. They live over there. I don't live over there. I represent District 1, but I'm going to listen to these people when they make those phone calls to me. And I've had numerous. I am absolutely in favor of the original development, not in favor of the apartments at this time, and I'll be voting against it for those reasons.
Well, I think the first time I ever alluded to this was probably in my January newsletter, and I said, there's something coming that's going to be potentially a hard vote, but we have to look past some of the smaller things to get to the long-term vision of where we want to be as a city. And what I see is a plan here, and I don't know when the Central Pike intersection gets built by the state, and I don't know when that happens, but I suspect it doesn't start happening until we supply the right-of-way for our side. It probably doesn't start happening until we get the roads in place. It probably doesn't start happening until we have the ability to realign Adams Lane, because of the way it sets right now. There's a lot of roadblocks in this thing, and I think that to the tune of, they're proposing about a tune of an $8 million fix to a lot of these problems. It's part of the infrastructure going in, before the complete development at least is being built out. So I'm looking at a plan here that helps us get from point A to point B. I see the apartments on this plan. I know mixed use is part of the thing, and the lady was talking about the McEwen project. That's a project that's going on in Franklin, and it's a nice project. I'd inquired about something similar to that before with the gentleman supporting this, and I said, what does it take to get something like this? I said, because land, we only have a finite amount of land in Mount Juliet. So once it's used, it's used. I mean, that's the bottom line about parking garages and other things. And then if you're going to do Class A office space, let's do it. But there's economic drivers out there that drive us in those directions and drive development in those directions. One of the things you see now, because we're comparing Cool Springs to this plan here, you see in Cool Springs is you see a vastly different land value out there that makes parking garages more feasible to do. In Mount Juliet, if we're ever going to get from point A to point B where we want to be with long-term Class A office space, we've got to start the groundwork. We've got to start the ball rolling on this. If we're ever going to get a long-term solution to traffic in Providence, we've got to make the calls as a Board of Commissioners that's going to get us to where we need to be as a city on this. I know anytime you go into construction and you go through these things, it's painful. I lived south of the interstate when Providence itself was built. I drove on a 2-lane road. I probably said very unkind things about the Board of Commissioners. Never thought I'd sit up here, but I probably said some very unkind things about the Board of Commissioners about putting a shopping mall on a 2-lane road. I can stand up here now and say I didn't know the whole story about what goes on and what happens with decisions at the state. But we have an opportunity to at least start the ball rolling on correcting some of these things. And, the city takes a bad rap for some of the traffic that we see on South Mount Juliet Road. We take a lot of, I think, criticism that's not necessarily deserved about traffic patterns that have changed coming out of other counties. Construction going on outside in the county, outside the city, that's piling up into the city with limited to no contributions to traffic improvements. So to me, I see something here on the table that's going to move the city to where we need to be long term. The only way people like myself and like so many others that commute to Franklin to find a quality job to feed their family, that we're going to see these options come to Mount Juliet is if we start the ball rolling on putting the infrastructure in place to attract these jobs here. I don't know anybody out there who wants an hour-long commute, but this is something we can offer to our citizens in getting the ball rolling on bringing those jobs to theirs. And let's talk about the existing infrastructure that we have in the city. We have Providence Marketplace built. There is a ton of out parcels out there now with restaurants on them. Largely, when people aren't working at home like they are now, you see these restaurants dying for business in the lunch hour. Putting these office buildings in place allows us to use infrastructure that we've already got to contribute back to our local economy, to put taxes back in the city, to put taxes back in the schools. This is an opportunity, I believe, for this city to finally get the ball rolling where we wanted to be and talked about being so long on two things: the Central Pike interchange and bringing the type of jobs that we want to see in this city. And this could be the start of it tonight.
Okay. I'll make a couple of comments. I don't want to belabor this. I do have a list for those that have an interest in this, and these are, it's possible you could answer them right now. I'm not really interested in an answer right now, but this is something that I'm going to be looking at on second reading. And it's been, a couple of them have been mentioned. No certificate of occupancies until the bridge widening project is complete. The graded site, the site would need to be graded in such a way that there would be an office pad that would be pad ready, including utilities. The new road would have to be complete all the way to Central Pike. Otherwise, no certificate of occupancies for the apartments. And then really a big one, y'all have promised it, but it's going to have to be in writing now. It's the right of way that was promised to be donated that was needed for the interchange, and it's going to have to be in writing before I can do anything on second reading. And I don't have any reason to doubt that it would ultimately be donated, but I think it's best that we get that locked in at some point, and that point would be now. With that, I'm just going to call for the vote. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
All right.
One of us, I'll go when it.
Go
You
ahead.
want to, I also want to, I thought you brought up a good point, Ray. You know, this is nothing against y'all. You're very respective, all of you, the owners from the developers and everything. And I also want to say, and I meant to say this a while ago, you know my position. It has nothing to do with you. But I do want to thank you too for hearing what I said at the Planning Commission about that sidewalk that's very, very much needed, that y'all have consented to put on there. And I think you were working on it even tonight to see if there was room maybe to go on the other side of the street. What y'all may not know is that one of my routes that I walk is up there, and I brought this up and said if this moves forward, there needs to be a sidewalk through there to connect so that people in the hotels and things like that. And I think that the Class A office is so important to support the hotels in this city. The main company that I represent, we had a meeting here in September at one of the hotels, and they brought a few vehicles in. Those people shopped here, they ate here, they had the hotel rooms here, and I think that Class Office is going to bring more of that type of thing that we need. So I just wanted to bring that up. I appreciate you put in that sidewalk there. It is very needed. If so, anyway.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay, to address the suggestion for the condos and townhomes, you know, when I first met with y'all last year, that was my first question. Why do you have to do apartments? Why can't you do condos and townhomes? And your reply to me was because it doesn't generate the money that you need for the roads. Is that true? I mean, compared to the part, okay. Because that's everybody's first question. Why can't they do condos or townhomes versus apartments?
Yeah, my name is Mike Murphy with Cumberland Advisors, a developer of the proposed apartments and the 30 acres that we're looking to do Class A office. So the answer to that is it's I know it may be hard to understand, but it's a different business plan. It's a totally different risk profile. So it's like asking a widget maker to not what make widgets and make cars or something else. It's just, those are two separate things. And the reason for that is with condos, there's a lot of financing hurdles. And, you know, to be successful in a condo, you have to have it, have to have the ability for mortgage companies to come in there and do FHA and different types of loans. And to have that, you have to have over 50% sold before any closings can happen. So it's just that's the short answer. But there is, it's not that we're unwilling to consider that. It's just not our business plan.
Okay, while you're still up there, you know, we had a conversation about TDOT and their interchange program, because I know that y'all have been in talks with them, with TDOT. So once you require that anchor tenant in that first office building, which would be in phase 1, which you estimated to be within hopefully a couple of years, you said that TDOT would consider moving the priority up on their list of the interchange?
Yeah, let me expand on that a little bit. If I could maybe regress a little bit to kind of just give you a big picture. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
So first off, this is an existing PUD. We can currently come in right now and put a Class A or a Class B or any class office on this property without coming back. We just have to go through site plan approval. And the way that my understanding of the current PUD reads is that Providence Parkway would be piecemeal extended to provide access to whatever we're trying to gain access to. That's all well and good, but if that were the case, then all of the traffic would go to Mount Juliet Road, and it wouldn't really open up the entire land between Central Pike and Mount Juliet Road, the bulk of Providence Central, for future office and headquarters, which is what I think that we'd all like to see is bringing more Class A office into Mount Juliet, bringing more high-paying jobs and that sort of thing. So that's what we're trying to do. And so this amendment simply adds a couple of things. One is that the hotel usage was eliminated from the original approval somewhere along the way. And so we're asking to have that usage put back into it. The second major thing is the apartments. The apartments were originally part of the PUD, but it's my understanding that right before approval, this board requested that the landowners secure a developer and then come back and look at it at that time. So that's exactly what we're doing. So the apartments were always envisioned, and then they were envisioned back in 2012 and 2013 when this was originally approved. So we're following up with other landowners are, and they've come back, they've selected me to be that developer. We've got a plan. We think it's a really good plan, and it incorporates a lot of the current updated development standards that are prevalent in the market right now. It's a urban type apartment property. It's Class A. It's top of the market. And so that's what we're trying to do. And the third thing that our request does is it basically takes the money generated by that land sale of the apartments, and the landowners are plowing that money back into infrastructure. You know, hard costs of probably over $5 million. And if you consider the right of way at another couple of $1 million, you're looking at $7 to $8 million of total gift that the landowners are giving to the city based on their specs. They're gonna, you know, inspect it and approve it and all that, but it's a gift. And so at that point, I think that both the city and the private developers are creating a win-win-win situation with the state. So we've opened up 200 acres, developed with streets and utilities. It's on the interstate, and TDOT has approved the access in 2017, I believe, so that it has to be funded by 2025. Now, this is the answer to your question. If we're successful, it'll take us 6 months to fully design and permit, as Mr. Barlow was saying, get ready to break ground on the roadway. It'll take me about that long to get all the permits necessary for the apartments. So we'll close in, let's say, January of 21. The roadway work will be completed by June, or roughly 6 months. And so in that point, we're helping to solve traffic problems. There's going to be some leakage. I think some people will use that to go to Central Pike and go west. And then in addition to that, at that point, now I'll be able to fully design an office building and start marketing on an office building. Right now, we could paint pretty pictures and say, hey, corporate headquarters relocate here to Mount Juliet. We've got all this great stuff. But that could have been done 8 years ago. And the fact is that those corporate headquarters are not even going to consider us on a short list until we get this roadway in, and all of us are serious about wanting to promote that type of office. So very simply, we're trying to, put that infrastructure in. We'll do the mass grading on the 30 acres of commercial plan, a concept plan for the office. And, we think that timing wise, it's very advantageous because again, if we break ground in January of 21, it'll take 24 months to build these apartments. So we're talking 23, and then it'll take another year to fully lease them up. So the full brunt of the traffic of the apartments won't be felt until, January of 24. And by that time, that'll give us 2 years. I mean, I can't predict the future, but I know that we're going to be working very hard to secure a corporate headquarters. It probably will take me 2 years to make that happen. But once we're successful, I'm able to talk specifics with these corporate leaders, and they know that I can deliver on what I'm saying because the road work, it'll be in place and all that'll be done. The mass grading will be done. So we're just trying to pave the way so that we can answer all those questions and move to a situation where this is a new gateway for Mount Juliet and will ultimately be a tremendous tax generator for both the city and the county. I know that, at completion, based on the square footage that the overall PUD has and current values and tax assessment rates, it's going to generate about $6 million a year. $1 million of that would go to the city and about $5 million to the county. And I know that goes to the county, but y'all know that roughly half of their budget goes to schools, which that is the single thing that you need to do. And you need to be commended on Wilson County having some of the best schools in the state. That's going to help me attract corporate headquarters here. They want places for their employees to be locally. So anyway, rambled there a little bit, but we're trying to create a win-win situation. Yes, sir, Mr. Manning.
Are you familiar with the McEwen interchange and how that came about?
Very. I live down there.
So let me ask, before you answer that, let me ask you this. So if we wound up in a similar situation for securing one of those headquarters, what do you see the chances of something like that happening with that interchange here?
Well, we've been told by state economic and community development that, if we can generate a corporate headquarters with at least 50 new employees, that would be a favorable demand factor. They can immediately, at their discretion, I can't exactly say what it is, but at their discretion, they can move that forward. And so you were alluding to McEwen, and I wasn't involved in that particular, but I live down there and I take that exit every day now. I know that there was no talk about that interchange. And when Nissan came along and we landed Nissan, we were driving on that in 24 months.
Yeah.
from zero to driving on it. So yes, to answer your question, if we can get some corporate announcements, I feel sure that that could be accelerated. And, you know, based on that, it does take probably 18 months. It, you know, could possibly even be in place by 2025.
Are you done?
No.
Oh, hang on.
All right. My next question is for Andy because what I had a discussion with my constituents about that you had given the timeline of 5 to 7 years out with TDOT with the interchange.
Mm-hmm.
There was some discussion up here with maybe being 8 to 10 years out possibly, but you had given the estimation of 5 to 7 years. So I just wanted to make sure that's still.
Yes. And I know some of the conversations that the development team has had with the TDOT commissioner and some of their key staff. I believe that they're looking at a 2027 build out. That would be that it would be completed in 2027. And I think that's a very reasonable time frame. I know that survey work is beginning right now. I have been able to have some conversations with some folks involved on that they're working on that. And so I do know that that's taking place. The city, we supplied $1 million to get that effort and some of the environmental work underway. And so I believe some of the environmental work is beginning as well. And so, yes, to answer your question, that I believe that 5 to 7 year time frame is very realistic.
Okay, and the estimated 2,500 cars on Mount Juliet Road. Now, this would not be overnight. This would be a phased in.
No, that's correct. And I believe as Mike was mentioning there, that is something that is a slow roll. You'll see that happen as they start to get occupancies on each building. They'll get one at a time, and you'll see that leasing rate gradually ramp up.
Okay.
Probably over the period of, I'd say he's probably correct, about a year.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's not my question for you.
Well, I'll go ahead. Unless you got
No, I'm not done.
Well, there's a shocker. Okay.
When do all right, on the
last
parking with the apartments, because that comparison was brought up in Terry Nicholson's email. But it's my understanding that the Planning Commission has requested that the parking be behind the buildings. Is that correct,
That's
John?
correct, yes.
Okay, yeah, so to address her question, that parking lot around those apartments have been requested to be moved to the back sides.
That's correct.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I wanted to clarify that. And then when Ray brings up infrastructure, he's specifically talking about the interchange. I know that because when I talk to my constituents, the way I presented the big picture to them was the nugget of this whole thing is we have a developer who's willing to put in a $7 to $8 million infrastructure first on the front end. This is the biggest complaint that we hear. We build with no infrastructure. Granted that interchange is infrastructure, but this infrastructure is within this development that it would be done first. So I wanted that cleared with my constituents that I have talked to. And also just to say that this would be a window of an extra traffic burden until that interchange goes in, of course. So that, you know, nobody likes that. And the final thing, when I first started talking to constituents, I pretty much had a 50-50 split. But the more people I talked to in my district and others as well, I know that you've had some calls out of my district as well, but I did reach out by phone and email to multiple people. And the more that they heard about the project, the more when they found out that infrastructure is going in first, and it possibly, although I explained there's nothing in writing about TDOT moving their project, the interchange up. So, I mean, I explained that. And also this would be tied in with the widening project. as far as occupancy on the apartments. So I was very clear about that. I feel like I did a good job painting the big picture. None of us want more apartments, but to look at the big picture. And I did not know at the time how I was going to vote. So I presented it in a very objective way. And I feel like I explained all sides of it for them to consider so that they could give me an objective feedback, which I feel that they did. So to say this, the more people I talked to, the more showed that they were, once they saw that big picture, the more support I had for it. So of the people that I spoke to, I estimate it ended up being a 70-30 in favor of it, of my constituents as well as others in other districts as well. So again, I'm sorry I went on, but I feel like I had to get that out.
This is an important project. We want to take due amount of time on it, but really, if this goes on 10 more minutes, we'll have to call it without objection and call a vote. Did you have something else?
I do.
I'm sorry. I knew somebody did. Go ahead.
Andy, I'm going to ask you these questions, and they're rhetorical, so they don't necessarily require an answer. But if we're able to get, and I think Mike, you said 24 months, 0 to 24 months is what you were talking about with the McEwen, with that interchange over there, right? Yes.
I'm not sure what your question is.
You said 0 to 24 months is about what that interchange took for them to get it going once the Nissan had announced. Yeah. Okay. So I'm having a real hard time trying to figure out why it is that it's taken me 7 years today to get 0.4 of a mile out of TDOT widened.
Need a Nissan.
I guess I need Nissan in the middle of Lebanon Road. It's the only thing I can figure there. I don't know how that's going to work.
That's correct.
The other thing that we're talking about is an interchange is about a $15 million investment, correct?
That's correct.
But what we're not talking about is the Central Pike itself and how many thousands of cars that's going to encourage to come to that interchange. And to widen Central Pike is approximately, now you correct me on the numbers, please feel free, but it's around $65 million, was it not?
That's what's identified in the Improve Act.
So I'm correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't happen often, so I'm going to gloat a little bit. So we're talking about an $80 million investment just for that one area right there.
That's correct.
I ain't buying it, but I do have some questions here. Maybe there is no road, and Mr. Mike, you and I had talked about a road to the Graves property being stubbed up, and I'm not seeing that on the plan.
If you go to packet page 170.
170?
Yes. Exhibit B.
I'm looking at the big.
I don't have that in front of me. Joe, maybe you want to help guide him?
Where's it at, Joe?
Pretty picture sheet.
Pretty picture?
Yeah. I think he's got it on the screen. Page 2.
Page 2?
Isn't that pretty picture?
C100. There it is.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm looking here, but I don't see a road stubbed into it.
It's right there.
Isn't that it?
He's
Right
pointing.
there?
It's right
Yeah, there.
Where?
Isn't that it?
Yeah, that's it.
I got a different plan then. Because it's not showing it right here on mine. This is James's here. Mine's in there. I just looked at
How
James.
soon will these new plans put in our mailbox?
Last week.
And that should be the current one. Yeah, we're missing stuff though.
It's not showing on our plan. Okay, I mean, that was one thing.
You know mine.
Thank you.
Go ahead and draw it in.
Bless your heart. I got a magic marker. I'm good. Okay. The other thing, fencing. Where is that addressed?
We,
It asked it to be decorative fence around the Graves property border, inside of the buffer.
Correct. Yeah.
And where's that located on?
Should be on. It's the 200 sheets.
Should be C 200.
See, 200?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, I see now. 5 foot tall ornamental.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm not sure why you did not get the updated set. That's been changed to a 6 foot fence.
Okay.
What's probably on that plan you're looking at also has may or may not have a variance request. We removed the variance request at the second reading at Planning Commission, second meeting Planning Commission. So we are proposing to fence 3 sides of Area E. So we'll call that the mixed use site, with the exception of not providing fencing on the east side along the stream buffer.
Is there a reason for not?
We're just using the natural vegetation and the stream as the border to the east. Now on the south and west and north, it's fully fenced with additional landscape plantings to enhance what's currently there.
Okay. And I'm
And
looking at this.
that was in
Is this still-
response to.
Has this changed at all with the 30-foot type D landscape buffer? Or is that still the same?
Still the same.
Okay.
Still get the landscape buffer. We just added the fence back in.
Is that with the natural?
Yeah, we plant in between what's there to supplement.
So you'll be supplementing what's already existing then?
Correct. Yeah, we're not gonna, nobody wants to take it out, just plant something new. Yes. New. Newer new one.
Newer new ones. Man, y'all spent a lot of money on paper, didn't you?
Was there?
Y'all killed a bunch of trees.
I was trying to keep somebody busy during the COVID.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Other comments? Huh? What's that? Okay. Everybody ready to vote? All in favor of this ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
It passes first reading by a 3-2 vote. Next item is item 11A1, a resolution discussing the WEMA lease agreement. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments from the commission? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item is 11A2, a resolution authorizing execution of a contract between the City of Mount Juliet and Blankenship CPA Group, PLLC, for auditing services. Is there a motion? I'll make a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments from the commission? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item is 11A3, a resolution declaring City of Mount Juliet Police Department abandoned property sale proceeds be distributed as allowed by law. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item is 11A5, a resolution approving an amendment to the agreement between the City of Mount Juliet, Tennessee and Kimley Horn for professional design and construction inspection services for the Belinda Parkway Sidewalks Project and authorizing the mayor to sign the agreement. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments?
Yes. The sidewalks along Belinda look great from the road. They look really nice. But if you walk them, you can see the dirt humps with the rock left in there from the construction company. And this was not the way their yards were prior to the project. And if it was my yard, I would be very upset. I've walked it. I had a lady call me, and two other people got involved as well. So to me, that's just unacceptable. They're having trouble mowing and weed eating because it's throwing rocks. So my question is, two questions. What, if anything, is the plan to correct this? And if this passes, does that have anything to do with the decision to do anything about it?
Oh, yeah, good questions. To answer your first question, we do have our city staff that is going to be reviewing those concerns over there. We have inspectors on the field. And those issues will, basically, they will have to be corrected prior to us issuing the final payment to the contractor. Those will be punch list items that they have to address. And so unless they get those addressed, they will not meet the final punch list, will not be able to make their final payment. And to answer your question on the second one, no, these two will not have any bearing. Well, I guess maybe to the small extent that this does cover the additional inspection fees. And this is only because the contractor is going well past their contract time. And so, which all the money for this is coming from penalties assessed to the contractor. So there's no additional monies to the city.
Okay, because I don't want to vote for this and I missed my opportunity to do something about it.
Right, that's correct, yeah.
Okay. All right. That's all.
Other comments?
Yeah, and Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, because if they don't correct it, that's part of the process, then they're going to keep having to be fined for not having the completion, because that's part of the completion of it.
That's correct, yes.
So I think they'll do that.
Mhm.
I would if I was paying that much money a day.
All right, all in favor of 11A5, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item is 11A6, a resolution approving an amendment to an agreement between the City of Mount Juliet, Tennessee, and Reagan Smith Associates for professional design services for a roundabout at the intersections of South Green Hill Road and Willoughby Station Boulevard, and a traffic signal at Providence Parkway and Providence Commons, Providence Marketplace, and authorizing the mayor to sign the agreement. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments from the commission?
I would just like it noted to my constituents who were against this traffic signal on Providence Parkway that this has nothing to do with whether they do the traffic signal or not. This is only like the funding for the
engineering.
Yes, so that has nothing to do with the project itself. That has already been approved years ago.
Okay.
So I just wanted that noted.
All right, all in favor of 11A6, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Our last item is 11B1, an ordinance to amend the Mount Juliet Personnel Manual adopted by ordinance 2015-03 regarding the vehicle take-home policy. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments from the commission? All in favor?
I
signify-
have a question. If I can find my
All
paper.
right.
I was a little confused. I was a little confused with the way it was written up. Here it is. It just seems sort of contradicting. So to ask the question, this 3.4 eligibility, is that the new what's proposing? Because in it says police personnel are allowed to use their city issued vehicles for personal use while conducting business inside the city limits. But then you got down here on 8.8, city vehicles are not personal vehicles and are not for personal use. So that's kind of contradicting there. I wanted to get that clarified. And then also on executive summary number 2, under what as far as out of county. My question has to do with out of county, using the vehicle to go home out of county. So
the first part of your question, when you're talking about 8.1, that is part of the previous ordinance where it references that city issued vehicles are not personal vehicles. That was part of the previous ordinance.
okay, so the 3.4 is what's being replaced, the new.
Is that correct? I haven't.
The way I read this, when it says an 8.8, it's not. These are two different sections in the personnel manual.
Mm-hmm.
They're totally in different areas. And it says they're not for personal use, which would mean they're not for personal use to like run to Nashville to go to dinner.
Or Carthage or somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, but it states that in 3.4 that police personnel are allowed to use their city-issued vehicles for personal use while conducting business inside the city limits. Does
Okay,
that,
they can only use it for personal use inside the city of Mount Juliet.
okay, not to go outside of the city?
Correct. They
Coming,
cannot go
coming to
Lebanon.
or going from the city of.
If I was a
Gotcha.
police officer and I lived in Lebanon, I could not use it for personal use
Inside the city limits of Lebanon.
inside Lebanon. I
If
can
you're
only
going
stay in the
to
city
work
limits
or
of
you're
Mount Juliet.
performing a function that is inside the city limits of Mount Juliet, coming to work, going to a funeral here, something of that nature, then yeah, you'd be.
Okay. So on the other page, my question has to do with being out of county. So if you hire officers out of the county, I guess you're always encouraged to hire within the county, but that might not always be the case. So what would be the policy there about using their vehicles to go, say if they lived in, say, I don't know what,
Smith.
Smith County or whatever?
If they live out, according to ordinance, if it passes after today's date, any employee hired after today's date, if they live outside the county, then their mileage would be 20 miles from the city limits. If that is, say, Davidson County, 20 miles from our city limits would be into Davidson County, so that would qualify. 20 miles from our city limits does not reach Smith County, so that would not
Okay.
qualify.
So if they lived on the other side of Nashville, but in Davidson County, that wouldn't
It
qualify
was-
either?
As long as they're within 20 miles of our city limits.
Okay. All right, and on the, allow Mount Juliet officers to use their city-issued vehicle for personal use, blah, 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 grant the city manager discretion, to, like, if the officer's off duty and they go out at night to the store, you're saying they can be allowed to take their vehicles so that you have an extra.
Well, that would be, there's two different ordinances there, two
Okay.
different parts of the ordinance that you're talking about. If they are off duty and they want to go to the store, they have to follow the policy will be written regarding being armed, being ready to respond if they have in contact with something. That's separate. That's in the previous part. We'll be able to use it for personal use. That does not mean that they'll be able to take their wife with them to go to the grocery store.
No.
There is a section there that gives the city manager authority to make emergency type situations or situations such as taking a child to school, emergency medical situations. I believe church is listed as one of them. It just gives the city manager some discretion to approve certain situations. In the current one, he doesn't get that leeway. If we go to a funeral, if a city employee passes or another police officer passes and we go to a funeral that's outside the city, there's no leeway in that policy to allow a non-city employee to ride in that vehicle. That's what it gives the city manager some authority to do.
Okay. That's all.
Vice Mayor?
I was just to make the comment, talk about the difference between using the vehicle in the city or Lebanon, for example. And the whole purpose and the value of this is using the vehicle in the city, puts another vehicle out there on the streets and gives that visual presence of an extra officer being out there. And not just an extra officer, but an extra officer that's equipped and able to respond as needed. And of course, if you're up to no good or whatever you want to say, but if you're up to that, you see a police car, you don't know whether it's on duty, off duty, and they're going to respond and have the authority and power to do it, whether they're on or off, and in fact be required to.
Okay. Any other comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. And with that, thank you very much. We are adjourned.